Chapter 331. Reading on a mobile phone, Peak Master Mu Yang's face was ashen, but there was nothing he could do. Since the Bai family's princess was forcing him, and the limitless sect master had spoken, how could he have a choice? He could only take a step forward and lower his head to Lin Tian. Item book net. Bai Qiu put away the godless token and whispered into Lin Tian's ear, "Are you satisfied?" Lin Tian looked ahead and saw the people of Xinga Taoism kneeling on the ground in fear and looking at him pleadingly. He snorted in his heart. He knew very well that these people were just afraid of Bai Qiu. He still had to rely on his own strength for some things. Therefore, he did not want to rely on Bai Qiu's power to make a fuss over anything now. "Forget it," he said. Hearing that, the elders of the 9 sects felt as if they had been pardoned. "Thank you, Lin Tian." "Lin Tian, you are a magnanimous man. Thank you so much," the 9 of them hurriedly said. The Wuji sect master glanced at the 9 of them and said, "You may leave." The 9 of them nodded and bowed to Lin Tian and Bai Qiu before leaving the fallen immortal peak. "Which sect do the corpses on the ground belong to? Clean them up yourselves." Lin Tian on Dao. The elders of Xinga Taoism hurriedly retreated and cleaned up the bloodstains in front of the fallen immortal peak before leaving. In the blink of an eye, only the people of Wuji Gate were left on the fallen immortal peak. The Wuji sect master looked at Lin Tian for a while, then smiled and nodded to Bai Qiu before stepping into the void and leaving the peak. Muyang Feng's face was very dark. He flicked his sleeves and left, leaving the deacons standing there in fear. "You may leave," the Wuji sect master said. The deacons hurriedly left the fallen immortal peak. Then, the Wuji sect master also stepped into the void and headed toward the Wuji sect. In the blink of an eye, only Bai Qiu and Lin Tian were left on the fallen immortal peak. Lin Tian looked at Bai Qiu and smiled. "Thank you for today." In fact, if Bai Qiu had not appeared, he would have been fine. For example, he could have given the 4-symbol seal or the weapon manipulation art to the limitless sect master. At that time, the limitless sect master would definitely protect him. However, he was not willing to do so. Bai Qiu blinked. "What are you going to thank me with? Weapon control? How about giving yourself to me? When the time comes, all my things will be yours." Lin Tian smiled. "Shameless." Bai Qiu blushed. Bai Qiu walked to the side and crouched down. She rested her chin on her hands and frowned. "What happened?" Lin Tian asked. "I snuck out from my home. Now that I have manifested the divine decree, those old antiques at home will definitely be able to sense my location. They will definitely order people to capture me." Bai Qiu felt wronged. "I still haven't found the divine decree yet." Lin Tian was speechless. "What's wrong with going home? It's too boring at home. I like to have more freedom," Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian was speechless. "That's enough. Don't pretend to be obedient. You don't know how many people envy you." Bai Qiu gritted her teeth and glared at Lin Tian. She looked like she was going to bite him. Lin Tian. Bai Qiu stayed on the fallen celestial peak for a long time. When the sky was completely dark, she returned to the Wuji peak. Only Lin Tianyi was left on the fallen celestial peak. Standing in front of the ruined palace, Lin Tian looked at the Wuji peak. The stars intertwined and poured down, giving off a kind of immortal aura. He sat down on a wooden chair beside the old forest. A small civet cat jumped onto his shoulder and suddenly jumped into his arms. Lin Tian smiled and stroked the cat's soft fur. "Everything depends on oneself. Strength is the foundation." He looked at the sky. The Wuji sect master's initial decision didn't make him feel disgusted, but he was more or less disappointed. To the Wuji Gate, he was now a dispensable person. He had no value at all and could be sacrificed at any time. He stood up and made a decision. He wouldn't stay in such a sect for long, and he needed to be prepared to protect himself. "I have to learn the art of array manipulation and reach the 6th level as soon as possible," he whispered to himself. On the path of a matrix manipulator, Tier 6 was a watershed. Only after reaching Tier 6 could one be considered a true matrix manipulator. At that time, he would no longer need ink and scrolls. He would be able to inscribe matrix manipulators in the void. He would be able to inscribe Killing Matrix, Psychedelic Matrix, and a series of other Matrix manipulators. In the later stages, he could even inscribe Spatial Teleportation Matrix. He stepped into the ruined palace, sat down cross-legged, and began to use the Tiani Soul technique. A faint light lingered in the sky. Silver starlight suddenly poured down from the sky. This was a strange scene. Now that Lin Tian's cultivation had increased greatly and reached the 7th level of the spiritual sea, the Tiani Soul technique became smoother after he used it. It attracted a large amount of starlight and surrounded him. Then, a rich silver light came out of his body. This was all soul power, and it attracted the little guys on the fallen immortal peak to jump out of the ruined palace. Lin Tian naturally felt the little guy's presence, but he didn't care. He focused on cultivating the Tiani Soul technique. As the Tiani Soul technique circulated over and over again, his soul power became stronger and purer, attracting even more starlight. Then he also circulated the 4 extreme scriptures, using the starlight to temper his body and bones. In the blink of an eye, the night passed. In the morning, Lin Tian stood up and faced the morning sun. Then he entered the spiritual sea array to temper his spiritual sense. After yesterday, he realized the importance of strength. In the world of cultivators, strength was everything. For the next few days, he cultivated the array control technique at night, repeatedly drawing one array pattern after another. The array control technique was refined little by little, and he was infinitely close to the 5th level of array control master. At the same time, he tempered his spiritual sense during the day, tempering his flesh and blood. His cultivation had increased a lot, and his body had become stronger. Another morning, Lin Tian muttered to himself. As usual, after a simple breathing session, he entered the spiritual sea array to cultivate. These days, he hadn't left the fallen immortal peak. He had been busy cultivating and becoming stronger. 1. The 4 extreme scriptures circulated, and a faint silver light appeared. He once again immersed himself in tempering his spiritual sense. Counting, by relying on the spiritual refining rune, he had now crossed a 5th of the 7th level of the spiritual sea. If he wanted to enter the 8th level of the spiritual sea, he would have to work harder. Of course, his main goal now was to reach the 9th level of the spiritual sea. As long as he reached the 9th level of the spiritual sea, he could rely on the void elixir he obtained in the ancient tomb of the alchemist to directly reach the void realm. Exhaling a mouthful of turbid air, Lin Tian secretly praised himself. The true yuan outside of his body fluctuated more violently. In the blink of an eye, another few hours passed. Dawn! At this moment, the sky suddenly trembled, and a majestic force spread out. In the spiritual sea array, Lin Tian suddenly opened his eyes and looked in the direction of the Wuji Peak. Demonic Qi? Looking at the Wuji Peak, he saw that the main peak, which was originally surrounded by starlight, was covered by a gray, demonic mist. The demonic Qi was shockingly powerful and condensed. Although it was far from comparable to the 4 demon gods sealed in the Demon Burial Valley, it was countless times more powerful than the red-robed demoness he killed in the Demon Burial Valley. Why would the Wuji Gate produce such a shocking demonic Qi? Lin Tian was puzzled. The demonic Qi was so powerful that he felt like he couldn't resist it. Hey! Bai Qiu ran over from the fallen immortal peak. What happened at the Wuji Peak? Lin Tian asked Bai Qiu. Bai Qiu was basically staying at the Wuji Peak. He felt that Bai Qiu should know about the Wuji Peak. It's a big deal, Bai Qiu said. The current saint of Mount Tianyao appeared a few days ago and challenged the powerhouses of the other 9 sections. Now, he's at the Wuji Gate. Anyone below the Immortal Ascension realm can fight with him. Now, that guy is fighting with the old fox, the Wuji Peak Master. The Wuji Peak is damaged. Fighting with the Wuji Peak Master? That's powerful. Lin Tian was surprised. Although he sensed that the demonic Qi of the Wuji Peak was terrifying, he didn't expect that the other party could fight with the Wuji Peak Master. The Wuji Peak Master was the most powerful person below the Immortal Ascension realm in the Wuji Gate. He was unfathomable and almost had 1 foot in the Immortal Ascension realm. The Saint of Mount Tianyao could fight with the Wuji Peak Master? Of course he's powerful. That guy has the desolate demon body. Bai Qiu said. Desolate demon body? Lin Tianyi was shocked. The other party was one of the 12 king bodies. Bai Qiu nodded and said seriously. The demon clan has special alchemists who can transform into human form when they reach the 4th level. But it's said that the desolate demon body doesn't rely on the transformation of the Baodan. He cultivated to the flight realm as a demon and then used his own strength to transform into human form. Now, that guy is at the 3rd level of the flight realm, and the desolate demon body is at the initial stage. He's very powerful. Basically, no one below the immortal ascension realm can suppress him. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. There was clearly a pellet that allowed one to transform into a human form at the level of a level 4 demonic beast, which would have made it easier to cultivate. However, the other party had resisted the temptation and trained all the way to the airborne realm in the form of a demonic beast. Such boldness surprised Lin Tian. That alone was enough to prove that the desolate demon physique was definitely extraordinary. How is the desolate demon body compared to your brother? He asked. Bai Qiu shook her head and said, It's hard to say. It seems that guy is not weaker than my brother. After a pause, she said, But it's not possible to defeat my brother. My brother's Thunder God body is also at the initial stage. Lin Tianyi was stunned. This time, Bai Qiu didn't say how powerful her brother was. It seems that the desolate demon body is really powerful, he said in his heart. Bai Qiu didn't allow him to explain. She pulled Lin Tian up and said, Let's go to the Wuji Peak to watch the battle. Compared to the desolate demon body, you're also of the same generation. This kind of battle is rare and rarely happens. It should be very beneficial for you to watch carefully. You're really worried. You didn't forget to call me at this time. Lin Tian said with a smile. It's good that you know. Bai Qiu snorted. Together with Bai Qiu, Lin Tian walked down the fallen immortal peak and toward the Wuji Peak. Quangren is here, and the Bai family. Shut up. Seeing Lin Tian and Bai Qiu appear together, all the disciples of the Wuji Gate turned pale with fright. A few days ago, Bai Qiu publicly displayed the Bai family's god Wu Shuang order, and her identity was completely exposed. Now that they saw Lin Tian and Bai Qiu appear together, how could these ordinary disciples of the Wuji Gate not be afraid? Lin Tian and Bai Qiu didn't care. Soon, they reached the Wuji Peak. Boom! The void trembled. On the Wuji Peak, many immortal plants were shattered. Lin Tian looked up. In the void, the Wuji Peak Master's face was solemn. He waved his hands repeatedly and collided with a burly figure. The burly figure's eyes were sharp, and his silver hair draped over his shoulders. His every move was filled with power. It was just a pair of simple iron fists, but it distorted the void and forced the Wuji Peak Master to retreat. I equals FIPS, last equals AGS, AGS. Chapter 332. Lin Tian was a little surprised. This silver-haired saint of the demon clan was really terrifying. He actually suppressed the Wuji Peak Master. Reading? I need to read. He has such combat strength at the 3rd tier of the Zephyr realm. No wonder he's one of the 12 kings. He thought to himself. Bai Qiu gritted his teeth and said, The saint of the demon clan, the desolate demon body. That guy named himself Patsong, saying that one day he would break through the vast sky and enter the 10th level of the 10 heavenly domains to prove immortality. He's very arrogant. You said before that you would trample the river of time under your feet and catch a reincarnated being to plant flowers and plants. No matter how I look at it, you're more arrogant than the desolate demon body. Lin Tian Dao, do you know how to chat? Lin Tian was speechless. Boom! In the void, vital essence was violent, and the demonic aura was shocking. The two figures fought together. Fist shadows and palm prints flashed, and all kinds of light intertwined in all directions, causing the space to sizzle and distort from time to time, as if it would collapse in the next moment. Facing the desolate demon body, even the powerful Wuji Peak Master kept retreating. Too weak. Not enough. Putsong shouted. A gray iron fist flew across the sky, mixed with shocking demonic aura, shattering everything. Damn it, how arrogant! Is the desolate demon body really so strong? Even the Wuji Peak Master who is about to enter the immortal realm can't resist it. That's the king body, a body that can be called a king. How can it not be strong? But after all, he's only at the 3rd tier of the Zephyr realm. How can he have such combat strength in this realm? It's enough to be comparable to the young celestial lords of ancient times. Many people clenched their fists. At the same time, there were also a few young people whose faces were gloomy, shocked, and scared. Lin Tian looked around and found that these young people were very extraordinary. They could be considered as outstanding talents, but at this moment, they were all injured and covered in blood. Bai Qiu said, "Those are the strongest disciples of Wuji Gate. They are all in the Zephyr realm." When Putsong came to Wuji Gate, these people went up to fight and were slapped away. If the Wuji Peak Master didn't intervene, they would have died on the spot. A slap? Several young airborne realm fighters fought at the same time, yet they couldn't even take a single slap from the enemy? Lin Tianyi was shocked. What do you think? Is the king physique so easy to block? Bai Qiu rolled his eyes. Lin Tian looked up into the sky and saw that there were a few other greater demons standing in the air. All of them were extremely powerful and were guarding one area. Clearly, the Heavenly Demon Mountain sect had experts from their clan following the Demon Saint to challenge the experts of the 10 great sects. Peak Master of Wuji Gate, what other moves do you have? Show me all of them. Putsong shouted. The gray iron fist trembled and pressed down, distorting the void inch by inch. The Wuji Peak Master's face turned serious. After retreating a few steps, he formed a seal in front of his chest. Boom! In an instant, a shocking divine might rushed out from the Wuji Peak's main body. It was the Wuji Peak's strongest divine power. Once this divine ability was unleashed, the heavens trembled, and light from all directions covered the entire sky. Infinite divine illusion. The Wuji Peak Master will definitely win if he uses the most powerful divine power of the Wuji sect. Although the Baron Demon physique is terrifying, it's only at the 3rd level of the spiritual sea after all. It's 6 levels lower than the Wuji Peak Master. Apart from the Sect Master and the Grand Elder, the Wuji Peak Master is the strongest person in our sect. He will definitely win. Many disciples of the Wuji sect said. The gorgeous divine light covered all directions and pressed down on Putsong from all corners. It was really terrifying. This is more interesting. Putsong's eyes were sharp, and his silver hair danced wildly. He looked extremely violent. With a boom, a light realm rushed out from behind him. It was misty, and in it were primordial mountains, withered trees, and old forests. There were also shocking beasts roaring. King's territory. Bai Qiu was shocked. Lin Tianwei was stunned. What's King's territory? Bai Qiu said. King's territory is a special bloodline divine power of the king physique. It can only be manifested when the king physique is at the initial stage. Staring ahead, Bai Qiu's beautiful eyes flickered and said, That's the king's territory of the Baron Demon physique. It's called the Baron Heaven Realm. It's very terrifying. Boom! As soon as the Baron Heaven Realm appeared, demonic light intertwined and immediately blocked the Wuji Peak Master's divine power, making it difficult for him to get close. Crack! 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 A series of crisp sounds were heard, and the void was actually wrinkled like a piece of paper. It was distorted beyond recognition, and cracks appeared. In the distance, a huge rock cracked and exploded with a boom. Retreat! The Wuji Peak Master shouted. At this moment, the other people of the Wuji Peak Master's expression changed, and they quickly retreated to avoid the demonic light that fell from the Baron Heaven Realm. Bai Qiu's expression also changed as she felt a huge pressure. She pulled Lin Tian and ran back. Hurry up and leave this place. Don't let the light of the king's territory land on you. Ordinary people can't resist it at all. They will die if they touch it. The demonic light of the desolate demon realm blotted out the sky and covered the earth. Everywhere it passed, nothing could stop it. Cracks even appeared in the void. However, in the next moment, Bai Chio's expression changed. The demonic light that was descending towards her, and Lin Tian stopped, unable to continue. What's going on? Bai Chio was shocked and couldn't help but stop in her tracks. At the same time, the desolate demon body, Putsong, suddenly turned around in the sky and looked over. He glanced over, and his gaze fell on Lin Tian. It was as sharp as a knife. Who are you? Staring at Lin Tian, the desolate demon body, Putsong's gaze was extremely terrifying. Lin Tian furrowed his brows. No matter what, he didn't expect that this saint child of the demon race would suddenly target him. As he met Lin Tian's gaze, he felt an immense pressure. The difference in cultivation between him and Lin Tian was simply too great. Putsong, what are you doing? If you want to fight, go fight the Wuji Peak Master. Bai Chio said. Putsong snorted and stared at Lin Tian domineeringly. He was like a demon emperor. Speak. Who are you? I'm an ordinary person. What does it have to do with you? Lin Tian frowned. Neither servile nor overbearing. Ordinary person? Staring at Lin Tian, Putsong's silver hair danced, and his gaze became sharper than a knife. Can an ordinary person block my barren heaven realm? What? He can block the barren heaven realm? How is that possible? That's a bloodline abijna of a king body. Everyone's expression changed. At that moment, the demons in the sky were shocked. The Wuji Peak Master also looked at Lin Tian in shock. Bai Chio stared at Lin Tian with his eyes wide open. The demonic light of the barren heaven realm didn't fall. Did you block it? Lin Tian frowned. I didn't do anything. What you're saying is unreasonable. The barren heaven realm is the desolate demon body's territory. Since the desolate demon body said that you blocked his barren heaven realm, then it can't be wrong. Bai Chio stared at Lin Tian and frowned. What's wrong with you? Not only can you resist my origin of Yin, but you can also block the light of the king's territory. Are you really a reincarnation body? Lin Tian felt a chill down his spine. Please don't say that. If those king bodies believe you, I'll be torn apart. But boom! An immense demonic aura surged, shaking the sky and causing the space to tremble. Putsong held up the barren heaven realm and descended from the sky. He actually attacked directly, slapping towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression changed. He clenched his right fist and punched forward. Bang! The fist and palm collided. With a boom, the space on both sides cracked a little. Putsong was in midair and had no strength. After colliding with Lin Tian's punch, he was sent flying. At the same time, Lin Tian felt his fist go numb. The ground under his feet cracked, and cracks spread out like a spider web. This, the desolate demon body of the flight realm, was sent flying? How is that possible? Or are my eyes playing tricks on me? Everyone's expression changed, especially the disciples of Muyang Feng who had passed through the fallen fairy peak. After seeing this, they couldn't help but swallow their saliva. Their faces were full of shock. They already knew that Lin Tian's body was very strong, but they didn't expect it to be so strong that he could send the desolate demon body of the flight realm flying with one punch. Saint! In the sky, the big demons were shocked and quickly rushed towards the desolate demon body. Go away! With a boom, the demon might shook and the big demons were sent flying. Putsong steadied himself. His eyes were burning and became even more violent. His demon chi swept in all directions, forcing many disciples of the Wuji Gate to stagger back. Very well. Let me see what kind of background you have. With a boom, Putsong's body was shining with demon light. The barren heaven realm pressed towards Lin Tian again at an extremely fast speed. Buzz! Putsong raised his hand, and gray demon light covered all directions. Putsong, what are you doing? Stop! Bai Chio shouted. Lin Tian was only at the 7th level of the mental ocean. It was impossible for him to block the desolate demon body of the flight realm. Go away! Putsong shouted. The gray hand released a blast of chi and pressed towards Bai Chio. Oh no! Stop him! The Wuji Peak Master was shocked. The princess of the Bai family came to Wuji Gate to cultivate. If something happened to her, the Wuji Gate would definitely be destroyed. You're courting death. Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. He shook his right hand, and the Tao diagram of the four symbols appeared and pressed forward. Bai Qiu was very good to him. Putsong attacking Bai Qiu infuriated him. At the same time, a clap of thunder exploded, making everyone tremble. In the blink of an eye, the sky turned pitch black. Lightning interweaved in the sky, and a thick bolt of lightning struck down. Putsong's expression changed slightly. He retracted his hand and quickly retreated. With a boom, the lightning landed on the Wuji Peak, creating a huge crater. Electric arcs crackled in the middle of the crater. Lin Tian was shocked. The Tao diagram of the four symbols shattered, and he looked up at the sky. At that moment, a group of powerhouses appeared in the sky. The leader was a young man in purple. He was handsome, but his expression was cold as he stared coldly at the saint of the demon race. Who is this person? He's surrounded by lightning. He's so powerful. He's terrifying. Many people were shocked. Brother! Bai Qiu was overjoyed. Lin Tian was very close to Bai Qiu. Naturally, he heard Bai Qiu's voice and was a little surprised. That's your brother? My brother, Bai Ziki. Bai Qiu nodded. Then, her face turned bitter. He's here to catch me so soon. In the sky, Bai Ziki looked at Bai Qiu. Suddenly, his eyes focused on Lin Tian and Bai Qiu. You're holding her hand. Staring at Lin Tian, Bai Ziki's face darkened. Chapter 333. Bai Ziki's face was cold, and the Bai family's experts behind him were also sullen. Lin Tian suddenly felt as if there were cold swords on his neck. He searched for Blanc, a stringent book handle, and read new chapters. Bai Ziki, don't misunderstand. Your sister is holding my hand. Lin Tian Dao. Bai Qiu's face was red with anger. What are you talking about? Let go. Bai Ziki's face was even darker. Behind Bai Ziki, the Bai family's eyes were even colder, as if they were going to pierce through Lin Tian. The eldest princess of the Bai family, the daughter of a rich family, was being held by an ordinary disciple of the Wuji Gate. What would happen if word got out? Did you hear that? Let go. Your brother is going to tear me apart. Lin Tian said to Bai Qiu. Bai Qiu gritted his teeth and pushed Lin Tian away. At this moment, everyone was shocked. All eyes fell on Bai Ziki, the thunder god body of the Bai family. A demon from Mount Tianyao said with a serious expression. This demon's voice wasn't soft, and many people had already guessed Bai Ziki's identity. Their expressions changed immediately. This thunder god body? I think I've heard that this man will be the next master of the Bai family. Staring at Bai Ziki, everyone's heart trembled. Bai Ziki stood in the void, looking dignified. Strands of lightning intertwined on the surface of his body, making him look like the thunder god. At this moment, a violent aura surged. The demon saint moved. He took a step forward and pressed down on Lin Tian. The void shook. Demonic light flashed in the barren heaven realm, distorting the void and causing cracks to appear. At the same time, the ground of the Wuji Peak shook. Many divine plants and strange stones were crushed by the aura. Pokang, if you want to fight, go to the Wuji Peak Master. Bai Qiu stood in front of Lin Tian. Putsong's silver hair danced in the wind. His eyes were cold and emotionless. Woman, get out of my sight. Bastard. Bai Qiuxing was furious. At this moment, everyone shifted their gazes and stared at them. Pokang's eyes were cruel. Even though he knew that Bai Qiu was the princess of the ancient Bai clan, he didn't care at all. He used the barren heaven world to suppress her and didn't care about killing Bai Qiu. At the same time, he waved his hand, and a demonic light enveloped Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes turned cold, and the Tao diagram of the four symbols flashed. Boom! Thunder rumbled as a bolt of lightning struck down in front of Bai Ziki, transforming into Bai Ziki's true body. Staring at Putsong, Bai Ziki's eyes were cold as he directly slapped him. There was another rumble. Bai Ziki casually swung his palm, yet it brought with it boundless thunder and lightning that enveloped all directions. Lin Tian's eyelids twitched. This was the thunder god physique? It was no exaggeration to say that a single punch could create a sea of lightning. "Brother, beat him up!" Bai Qiu yelled. Bai Ziki didn't say anything. He stared coldly at the saint and slapped again. Boom! The sky became even darker and thunder rumbled. A sea of lightning struck down, covering the entire Wuji Peak. Such a horrifying scene instantly caused everyone's faces to change color. Is this something a human can do? He's like an ancient deity. Retreat! On the everlasting peak, everyone was shocked, completely stunned by this aura. In the sky, the great demons of the demon race frowned. They were also shocked by Ziki's terrifying might. These monsters were all at the pinnacle of the Zephyr plane and could become monster kings at any time, but at this moment, they felt a chill run down their spines. Putsong split by Ziki's lightning, and his eyes lit up. The thunder god physique of the Bai family. I wanted to try for a long time. Now is the time. With a rumble, Putsong's silver hair danced even more violently. His eyes were cold and cruel, like a ferocious beast. Don't disappoint me. Don't be destroyed by me in a few moves. Boom! The demonic light was gray, as if a demonic son had been born. The light spread into the distance. Ah! Everyone on the Wuji Peak retreated, but some of them were too slow. They were hit by the demonic light and died immediately. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. This desolate demon physique was indeed ferocious. It didn't care about anyone's life at all. Disciples of the Wuji sect, retreat from the main peak. The sect master of the Wuji sect said. The sect master of the Wuji sect didn't look good after losing a disciple, but he couldn't say anything because the other party had the desolate demon physique and was the saint of Mount Tianyao. Like the Bai family, he was a top force that looked down on this heaven region. The desolate heaven world shone brightly. The demonic light spread for hundreds of feet and enveloped Bai Ziki like a heavenly domain. Bai Ziki snorted. With a flash of divine light, a sea of lightning rushed out behind him. There were palaces in it. This is... Lin Tian was shocked. This sea of lightning that contained palaces really looked terrifying. Bai Qiu said, "My brother's imperial region, Divine Roar Palace." Once the Divine Roar Palace appeared, the lightning in the sky became even more shocking. It struck down one after another, as if it was going to destroy the world. At this moment, Bai Ziki's expression changed slightly. He turned to look at Lin Tian. "Brother, what's wrong?" Bai Qiu asked. Bai Ziki stared at Lin Tian. His eyes were like sharp swords, as if he wanted to see through Lin Tian. After a while, he only frowned. Boom! Divine light shook. The desolate demon body charged over, and the desolate heaven world directly pressed down. Bai Ziki turned around and ascended into the sky. It was as if a divine king had descended. The Divine Roar Palace behind him automatically went up to meet him. The two imperial regions collided. The void immediately shook. Dense black cracks appeared in the sturdy space. The space was shattered. These two are simply below the Wuji Peak. Everyone's heart trembled. Very good. Putsong's silver hair fluttered wildly. His eyes were cruel and cold. There was a sinister and savage smile on his face. Bai Ziki's expression was cold. The Divine Roar Palace shook and was destroyed. Inside the desolate heaven world, demonic light flashed. Gray mist rushed up as if it could corrode everything. It shook the sky. Then, the roars of wild beasts sounded. Thousands of beasts appeared and rushed out, pressing toward Bai Ziki. Bai Ziki's purple robe fluttered. A clear shout came from the Divine Roar Palace above his head. A huge divine shadow stood up. This divine shadow was completely formed by lightning. It was more than 30 meters tall and slapped down at the thousands of beasts. Boom! A terrifying wave rushed up. Demonic light and lightning intertwined, destroying everything. A battle between imperial bodies. A terrifying battle. Putsong's eyes were ferocious. He stepped out and the sky shook. a giant beast rushed out from the desolate heaven world. The giant beast turned into light and enveloped Zeke. It opened its bloody mouth and bit at him. Along the way, it actually shattered the void. Zeke raised his hand. The divine shadow behind him stepped out. A thunder sword appeared in his hand, and he slashed down. Ka! An astonishing sword strike tore open a huge crack in the void, and space-time turbulence poured out. At this moment, the entire Wuji Peak was shaking. If it weren't for the formation engraved on the peak, it would have cracked. Even so, this fluctuation alarmed the master of this branch. The Wuji sect master personally walked out from the depths. The Wuji Peak master arrived in a flash. He transmitted his voice to the Wuji sect master, informing him of the two's identities. Boom! The shocking battle was extremely terrifying. Divine light flowed like a destructive sea. Below the Wuji Peak, Lin Tian watched the two fighting in the void. He couldn't calm down. The desolate heaven world and the divine roar palace. These two imperial territories were truly terrifying. The masters of these two territories were even more terrifying. Their battle strength was unparalleled. How is it? Isn't my brother very powerful? Isn't it easy to suppress you now? Bai Qiu said. Lin Tian had to admit that Zeke wasn't exaggerating. If Zeke wanted to suppress him now, it would be very easy. But you also said that you're comparing me now to your brother. After a while, I'll beat your brother up. Lin Tiandao. Bai Qiu curled his lips. You're daydreaming. In the air, Zeke and Putsong battled. Thunderous light splashed everywhere as the power of the desolate heaven realm continued to support them. It was unknown how many voids were shattered, causing everyone from the everlasting immortal sect to turn pale with fright. Many of them couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat off their foreheads. After more than 2 hours, the battle ended. The two stopped. Putsong's clothes were messy. Much of his silver hair was broken. 2 lines of blood hung from the corners of his mouth. There was even a bloody hole in his right shoulder. On the other side, Zeke wasn't any better. His face was pale, and there was a patch of blood on his chest. The battle between the two imperial bodies was even. Thunderbody, very good. This is more interesting. It's worth crushing. Putsong stood in the void. The blood at the corner of his mouth was obvious, but his eyes were ferocious. After that, Putsong's gaze moved past Zeke and landed on Lin Tian. His gaze was like a cold blade as he said, "And you strange little ant. I'll also take your head." Lin Tian's eyes turned cold as traces of chilliness intertwined. To the Ultong sacred ground, Putsong stepped in the void and quickly left the Wuji gate. Behind him, a group of monsters quickly followed. Hey, you're being remembered by that lunatic. Bai Qiu poked Lin Tian with his arm. I'm also being remembered by your brother. Lin Tiandao. At this time, Zeke stood in the void and stared at him coldly. By family imperial body, sorry for not going out to meet you. The Wuji sect master came from afar and invited Zeke to the Wuji palace. Zeke glanced at Lin Tianyi and looked at Bai Qiu. Behave yourself. With that, Zeke led the group behind him and followed the Wuji sect master. This, as expected of the Bai family's Thunderbody. He actually made the Immortal Realm sect master personally welcome him. This is normal. That's the future patriarch of the Bai family. Many people muttered. Lin Tian glanced at Zeke, shook his head, and walked toward the fallen celestial peak. Wait for me. Bai Qiu hurriedly chased after him. After returning to the fallen celestial peak, Lin Tian couldn't do anything else because Bai Qiu was following him. He could only sit down beside old Lin. Your brother is here. Aren't you going to go over? He asked. Previously, I showed the godless order and was detected by the old antiques in the family. He's here to take me back. Bai Qiu squatted down with a bitter expression. Lin Tian was puzzled. It's just going home. Why do I feel that you're unhappy? The adults in the family are forcing you to do things you don't like and don't want to do, saying that it's for your own good. Will you be happy? Bai Qiu said. P.S. Well, on the last day of 215, I wish everyone a happy New Year 2016 and happy Primal Core. This book is from Basketball Color Book. Chapter 334. Lin Tian paused and smiled. You forced me to do things I didn't want to do, such as the alchemy competition. See? I don't mean any harm. I'm just joking. Besides, that Shinshinyu is annoying. Bai Qiu whispered. I know you mean no harm, and I know you're just joking about telling the world that I'm a reincarnated person. So, from another perspective, if your family forces you to do things you don't want to do, they won't mean any harm. They're doing it for your own good. After all, you're related by blood. Lin Tian smiled. Bai Qiu stared at Lin Tian, sniffled, and mumbled, You don't understand. These two things are different in nature. Lin Tian was curious. Can you tell me what's going on? Bai Qiu opened his mouth. At this moment, several figures arrived at the fallen angel peak. Of course, they were here for Bai Ziki. Brother, Bai Qiu called. Bai Ziki walked over, glanced at Bai Qiu, and his eyes fell on Lin Tian. Buzz! Thunder and lightning intertwined, and the sky above the fallen angel peak turned dark. A sea of thunder appeared behind Bai Ziki. Divine Roar Palace? Bai Qiu's expression changed. Brother, what are you doing? Bai Ziki waved his hand, and the lightning fell like a gentle rope. It tied Bai Qiu up and pulled him away from Lin Tian. Then, the Divine Roar Palace shook and pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression changed. He knew how terrifying the Divine Roar Palace was. Not many people below the connecting celestial realm could resist it. Bai Qiu struggled. Brother, he's my only friend outside the clan. What are you doing to him? Bai Qiu struggled hard, but he couldn't break free. Bai Qiu was shocked and angry. Don't mess around. Otherwise, when I grow up, I'll suppress you too. Bai Ziki's expression didn't change. The Divine Roar Palace shook and fell from the sky, covering Lin Tian. Boom! Violent thunderbolts shook all directions. The sky was pitch black, as if a great calamity was about to descend. The Divine Roar Palace was extremely terrifying and could crush everything. However, in the next moment, something strange happened. The Divine Roar Palace stopped above Lin Tian's head and could not fall. It was as if it was blocked by an invisible force and could not move forward. Bai Qiu's expression changed slightly. She was standing close to Bai Ziki and knew that her brother was not showing mercy. But now, the Divine Roar Palace could not be suppressed. It actually stopped above Lin Tian's head. This was unbelievable. Lin Tian raised his head and frowned. Bai Ziki, what do you mean? Bai Ziki's eyes flashed. With a clang, a divine shadow rose from the Divine Roar Palace and condensed a dazzling sacred thunder sword in his hand. Slash! Bai Ziki said coldly. As his words fell, the divine shadow in the Divine Roar Palace raised his hand and swung the sacred thunder sword at Lin Tian. The sacred thunder sword cut through the void. However, when it approached Lin Tian, it inexplicably changed its trajectory and fell into the distance with a whoosh. Boom! A shocking explosion could be heard from outside the limitless immortal gate. A violent gust of wind swept out, sweeping up a cloud of gray sand. Looking from afar, the old forest outside Wuji Gate trembled and a deep pit with a diameter of 20 feet appeared. Lin Tian frowned and stared at Bai Ziki. Who are you? For the first time, Bai Ziki spoke to Lin Tian. An ordinary person. Lin Tian on Dao. Bai Ziki snorted. The Divine Roar Palace flashed and disappeared in the air. At the same time, the thunder rope binding Bai Qiu broke and disappeared into a ray of starlight. Brother, you've just met me and you've already tied me up. You've gone too far. Wait until my king body is completed. I'll suppress you for a year. Bai Qiu was furious. Black lines appeared on Bai Ziki's forehead. It was truly unbearable to be suppressed by his own little sister for a year. Are you okay? Bai Qiu ran to Lin Tian's side. Lin Tian shook his head. I'm fine. Did you do anything just now? I know that my brother didn't show any mercy after using the Divine Roar Palace. How can you block my brother's Divine Roar Palace? Even the immortal Ascension State powerhouses in our family have to spend some effort to do that. Bai Qiu transmitted her voice. Lin Tian frowned and stared at Bai Ziki, then at Bai Qiu. Finally, he shook his head. Bai Ziki's divine roar palace was terrifying and gave him a lot of pressure. However, he didn't do anything to block it. Bai Qiu, let's go. A voice rang out. Bai Ziki stood at the side, and his gaze landed on Bai Qiu. Bai Qiu replied with an "oh" and returned to Bai Ziki's side unwillingly. She knew that since her brother was here, there was no way she could escape. She transmitted her voice to Lin Tian. Your physique is really strange. You must be careful in the future. Don't let others find out about it. Otherwise, it won't do you any good. Okay, Lin Tian replied. Bai Qiu smiled and waved at Lin Tian. I've been very happy during this time. Thank you. After that, Bai Qiu walked down the fallen immortal peak. Lin Tian opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but he didn't know what to say. Bai Qiu was just going home. Bai Ziki took a deep look at Lin Tian, then turned and left with Bai Qiu. The experts of the Bai family who followed Bai Ziki were the last to leave. Before they left, they all glanced at Lin Tian coldly. Their gazes were like sharp blades, arrogant and condescending, which made Lin Tian very uncomfortable. In the blink of an eye, only Lin Tian was left on the fallen immortal peak. Half an hour passed in the blink of an eye. Looking in the direction of the Wuji Peak, Lin Tian saw that the starlight was still resplendent, surrounding the main peak. However, he kept feeling that something was missing. I'll really be alone after this, he muttered to himself. During this period of cultivation at the Wuji Gate, Bai Qiu accompanied him. Now he was really alone. Shaking his head, he walked to the side of the hall and sat down cross-legged in the spiritual consciousness array. He then began cultivating the four extremity scriptures. Today, he saw the battle between the desolate demon body Pitsong and the peak master of the Wuji Peak and Bai Ziki on the Wuji Peak. That really touched him greatly, especially the battle between the desolate demon body Pitsong and Bai Ziki. The two of them were too strong, especially the king's territory mystical abilities that they dealt with. The power made him feel shocked, and he felt that they were really invincible. I have to become stronger as soon as possible, he muttered to himself with a glint in his eyes. Seeing the two of them, he felt immense pressure. Buzz! Silver light surrounded his body, and he took out a set of divine refinement runes and worked hard to refine his spiritual consciousness. Stars appeared, and night soon fell. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. At the end of the east of the second heavenly domain, there were endless immortal mountains surrounded by divine light. There were also countless rare beasts hovering in the sky, and a 7-colored rainbow bridge could even be seen. At the end of the endless immortal mountains, there was a vast palace with floating islands, immortal rivers flowing in midair, and dense Tao patterns surrounding it. It was majestic. I'm back. Bai Qiu followed Bai Ziki back to the family and walked into a hall, looking weak. Little ancestor, you're finally back. Did anything happen outside? Did you suffer? An old woman greeted her. Seeing that Bai Qiu had returned to the family, the old woman's face was full of smiles, as if a long-lost treasure had been found. There were 2 other old men beside the old woman. Their faces were full of wrinkles, but their auras were extremely terrifying. Brother tied me up as soon as he came up. The old woman pointed at Bai Ziki twice and chided jokingly. Outrageous. How can you bully your own sister like that? Bai Ziki stood at the side and didn't say anything. He only glanced at Bai Qiu. Anyway, it's good that you're back. Ziki, take Qiu away for a while. She must be tired after running around outside for so long. The 2 elders laughed, extremely benevolent. Bai Ziki nodded and glanced at Bai Qiu. He walked out and said, Come here. Bai Qiu nodded and asked the 3 old men to leave. She followed him. In the blink of an eye, the hall quieted down. Only the 2 old men, the old woman, and the group of Bai family experts who came back with Bai Ziki were left. Report as it is, one of the old men said. After Bai Ziki and his sister left, the smiles on the 2 old men and the old woman's faces disappeared. Among the group of Bai clan experts following Bai Ziki, a green-robed middle-aged man spoke. Young Miss is indeed cultivating in the everlasting immortal school. Everything is fine, and she did not suffer any grievances. The everlasting immortal school is very respectful to young Miss, but in that sect, there is an ordinary disciple who is very close to young Miss. Very close? How close? Very close. The middle-aged man in green told them everything he saw and heard. The two old men and the old woman's faces darkened, and a cold light flashed in their eyes. The Pearl of our Bai family can't be close to just any cat or dog. There can't be any mistakes in the marriage with that person from the Leaf family. There can't be any hindrance in the middle. Bai Yu, do you understand? The three of them looked cold. The man in green was named Bai Yu. A murderous light flashed in his eyes. He nodded and said, "Understood. Go do this seriously. Don't let that girl know, understand?" One of the old men said, "Understood." Bai Yu nodded and left. On the fallen immortal peak, the faint sunlight shone down. It was very quiet, or it could be said that it was very quiet. In these few days, Lin Tianyi had been cultivating in the array in his sea of consciousness. His divine sense became purer and brighter. In just 3 days, he had reached 1/5 of the 7th level of his sea of consciousness. In 3 days, he had reached 1/5 of the 7th level of his sea of consciousness. This cultivation speed was really amazing. Lin Tian was also very clear about this. Watching the battle on the Wuji Peak played a very important role in this. That girl Bai Qiu is right. Watching that kind of battle is indeed very beneficial. Lin Tian muttered to himself. Thinking of Bai Qiu, he could not help but think that the girl had already returned to her family. His only friend in this Wuji Gate had left just like that. Forget it. There will be a time when we have to part. He muttered to himself. Shaking his head, he walked out of the array in his sea of consciousness. He came to the old forest on the peak, paused, and walked in. After cultivating for a few days, it was also a good thing to walk freely. Whoosh! A light breeze blew past, and the withered leaves in the old forest were swept up. The old forest on the fallen immortal peak was not special. At most, it had more spirit chi than the mountains in the mortal world. Lin Tian walked in it and suddenly stopped. Not far away, there was a little fox with some bloodstains on its calf. It seemed to be injured. It lowered its furry head and whimpered softly, looking a little pitiful. P.S. On the first day of the year 2016, I wish everyone a Happy New Year. Happy New Year! Chapter 335. Lin Tian paused for a moment, then walked forward and squatted down beside the little fox. See? The little fox wasn't afraid when it saw a human approaching. It looked at Lin Tian with its big eyes, looking a little pitiful. Poor thing. Lin Tianyi smiled. He brushed away the fur on the little fox's leg and saw a bloodstain. It seemed to have been cut by a sharp blade. He took out some hemostatic powder from the stone ring and sprinkled it on the bloodstain. Then, he reached out and used his inner yuan to help absorb it. The little fox stared at Lin Tian and blinked its big eyes. It seemed to have recovered a lot. Ah! The little fellow called out softly. Lin Tian smiled and reached out with his other hand to pat the little fellow's furry head. There were many little fellows in the old forest on the fallen immortal peak. Before he left the Wuji Gate, these little fellows were the only ones who could accompany him. His inner yuan dripped down, and the bloodstain on the little fox's leg healed little by little. Rustling sounds could be heard from all around. One by one, the little fellows approached. Very soon, Lin Tian was surrounded by densely packed little fellows. White rabbits, civet cats, raccoons, moles, magpies, squirrels. The little fellows weren't big and weren't afraid of Lin Tian at all. A magpie landed on Lin Tian's head. A civet cat climbed onto Lin Tian's shoulder, and a white rabbit jumped to Lin Tian's feet. Lin Tianwei smiled. This scene was really heartwarming. Ah! The injured little fox stared at Lin Tian and blinked its big, beautiful eyes. Lin Tian rubbed the little fellow's head. Suddenly, his divine sense shook and the divine sword at the bottom started to vibrate. Lin Tian's expression changed, and he quickly looked around. This was the second time the divine sword had vibrated on its own in front of the fallen immortal peak. Ah! The little fox called out softly and stared at Lin Tian with its big, bright eyes. A ball of light appeared, and the little fox's body lit up as if it was made of light. It was incomparably sacred. This is... Lin Tian's expression changed. Under his right hand, the little fox's injured calf was instantly healed. Not a single wound could be seen, and its fur had also turned into light. Buzz! The void suddenly trembled. All around them, the white rabbits, civet cats, raccoons, moles, colorful magpies, squirrels, and all the little things that had gathered were now shining brightly. Every little thing's body lit up. In Lin Tian's sea of consciousness, the divine sword vibrated even more violently. The little fox called out softly. It jumped to Lin Tian's feet and rubbed against Lin Tian's calf. Then, an even more dazzling light spread out. The little fellow's body completely turned into light, turning into a mysterious rune that floated up and down. Lin Tian's eyelids twitched as he stared at the mysterious rune. He could feel the Taoist connotation as thick as the ocean. Buzz! The light around them became even more dazzling. The white rabbits shook their ears, the civet cats wagged their tails, the raccoons climbed onto Lin Tian's shoulders, and the colorful magpies chirped softly. The little guys' bodies became transparent. In the next moment, they turned into light like the little fox and condensed into mysterious runes. In the blink of an eye, dense runes flashed and surrounded Lin Tian. At the same time, a heavenly sound like a divine bell rang in Lin Tian's heart. The divination divine art belongs to the benevolent. The sacred sound was vast and profound. It flowed through Lin Tian's heart like a stream, as if it had come from the ancient times. Lin Tian was shocked, and his face changed. Buzz! The mysterious runes that the little guys turned into jumped like fairies and suddenly disappeared into Lin Tian's sea of consciousness. In the blink of an eye, the white lotus in Lin Tian's sea of consciousness swayed, and all the runes began to jump rhythmically. Then, the pictures of the great Tao appeared one after another. Secret sect handprints appeared and were quickly engraved in Lin Tian's mind. Lin Tian was completely dumbfounded. Those little guys are the secret runes of the divination divine art. They are the legendary Taoist marks. His pupils jumped. Lin Tian stood in the same place. At this moment, his body automatically emitted wisps of light. He seemed to have turned into a sun, illuminating the entire old forest of the fallen celestial peak. So that's how it is. So that's how it is, he murmured. At this moment, he saw the remnants of the paintings. They were the past of the fallen celestial peak, as if he was there in person. That year, the spiritual energy was thin and even cut off. The fallen celestial peak, which was originally one of the 50 main peaks of the Wuji Gate, turned into a ruined peak in a flash. It was empty and no one really lived there. That year, little guys were born in the peak. They jumped all over the mountain, but they were difficult to attract people's attention. The disciples who once lived in this abandoned peak drove the little guys out one by one. Some little guys left the old forest and jumped out of the fallen celestial peak, but they were killed by the disciples of the Wuji Gate and thrown out of the gate. For those cultivators, these ordinary animals were nothing. They were not even worthy of rations. They would only pollute the vital essence in the body. These people were not evil, but they were not benevolent. A month ago, Lin Tian entered this main peak. He was different from those cultivators who considered themselves to be virtuous and virtuous. He who came from another world was very easy to get close to these weak little fellows and was very fond of them. He fed them precious pills because Zhengyi killed a group of little fellows. These scenes were all branded onto this fallen immortal peak, branded onto the little fellows' bodies. These little guys were the traces of the revived divining divine skill. The divining divine skill searched for benevolent people and found Lin Tian. Lin Tian sat down cross-legged. Following the rune imprints in his sea of consciousness, his hands moved rhythmically. The number of Dian is 50 and 49 are used. Giving up one is called the evading one. Lin Tian whispered. His eyes lit up, producing streak after streak of symbols that continuously flickered into existence. At the same time, he waved his hands, and strange phenomena appeared behind him. There was a broken mountain, a cracked sky, a shattered galaxy, and even a great Tao treasure, the world extermination roulette. A wave of destructive power spread out. As his hands moved, all the runes in his sea of consciousness gradually condensed together, shining brightly. Then, the condensed light spread out again, rushing to every corner of his body. With a boom, on the fallen celestial peak, rich spiritual chi emerged from the ground and instantly enveloped him. It flowed into his sea of consciousness through his glabella, causing his sea of consciousness to vibrate. At this moment, every strand of his divine sense emitted a blazing light. It was like the most sacred source becoming purer and stronger bit by bit. Lin Tian closed his eyes slightly, forgetting everything. His hands moved faster and faster, making hand seals. Boom! Behind him, more strange scenes appeared. It was incomparably magical. Dense light entangled him. He was comprehending the divine skill, studying it bit by bit. At the same time, spiritual chi emerged from the ground and entered his body bit by bit, entering his sea of consciousness, making his divine sense power stronger bit by bit. Time passed in a hurry. An hour, 2 hours, 4 hours, in the blink of an eye, Lin Tian sat there, and 6 hours passed. Boom! 6 hours later, a strong wave spread out, impacting every inch of Lin Tian's flesh and blood, causing his skin to become transparent for a moment. His internal organs and 8 extraordinary meridians could be seen from the outside world. The 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness. Stepping into the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness, Lin Tian's physique became stronger, his vital essence more vigorous, and his combat power more powerful. However, he didn't open his eyes. He was still weaving hand seals. It wasn't until another 2 hours passed that he opened his eyes and stood up. Clenching his right fist, he felt an incomparably powerful force. The divine skill belongs to the benevolent. He whispered to himself. After thinking about it, he couldn't help but smile. He was actually a benevolent person. Standing in place, he glanced around. In the old forest on the fallen celestial peak, the spiritual chi gradually became stronger. However, the surroundings became extremely quiet. There was no small animal to be seen. The little ones he was familiar with were all gone. A light appeared in the void and turned into a little fox, landing on the ground. The little fox seemed to be real, and it let out a cry. Lin Tian was shocked. Another little guy appeared. Whoa! The little fox let out a soft cry, looking at Lin Tian with its big bright eyes. It swayed and slowly ran to the side. Lin Tian paused for a moment and followed. Not long after, the little fox stopped. There was an inconspicuous round stone in front of it covered with sand. The little fox was leaning on it, blinking its big eyes, staring at Lin Tian. After obtaining the divine skill, Lin Tian knew that the little fox was not ordinary. He slowly walked over, carefully reached out his hand, and wiped off the accumulated sand on the round stone. Under the sand and dust, strand after strand of strange patterns appeared, gradually producing wisps of light that were extremely faint. Space transmission array? Lin Tian was shocked. He cultivated the art of array control, so he naturally recognized this kind of array pattern. At the very least, one had to be an 8th rank array control master to carve it. Of course, some martial arts experts with exceedingly high cultivation could also carve this kind of array pattern, because when one's cultivation reached a certain level, some things could be connected. Of course, it was only some things, not everything could be connected. There is actually a space transmission array here. Where does it lead to? Lin Tian was shocked. He circulated his soul power in his right hand and touched the pattern on the stone. With a hum, bits of light flickered, causing his expression to change, and he quickly retracted his right hand. It's very damaged. Can only be used once. He thought to himself. A cry came from the side. The little fox stared at Lin Tian, blinked its eyes, and truly turned into starlight and disappeared. Lin Tian opened his mouth, but in the end, he could only sigh. The little fox is formed by Dao marks. What is the purpose of bringing me here? He softly muttered to himself. He squatted beside the round stone, and after a long time, he finally came back to his senses. Forget it. Let's not think about it anymore. Shaking his head, he covered the pattern on the round stone with sand again, and then walked out of the old forest. For some reason, the sky became pitch black, and specks of stars appeared in the firmament, sprinkling down silver splendor all over the sky. Lin Tian walked into the knowledge sea array, sat down silently, and guided the power of the stars to consolidate his cultivation of the 8th level of the knowledge sea. Faint silver light flickered, intertwining outside his body. He cultivated for an entire night and only stood up at dawn the next day. He faced the morning sun and breathed in to nourish his chi. He was the only one on the fallen immortal peak, and no other little guys came near, and no disciples of the Wuji Gate would come to this main peak. In the following days, he silently comprehended the divining divine art, and then deeply felt the power and terror of this heavenly venerable secret art. It could evolve all things, and it was omnipotent. It was truly the battle saint technique. The divining divine art was different from the four-symbol seal. The four-symbol seal had fixed hand seals and a fixed cultivation method, but the divining divine art mainly relied on perception. Lin Tian comprehended the divining divine art in the knowledge sea array every day and gradually familiarized himself with it. Until 7 days later, he barely cultivated the divining divine art to the initial stage and could fight with it. 7 days at the initial stage. I wonder if this perception is high or low. Lin Tian muttered to himself. Chapter 336. Reading on his mobile phone after a slight pause, Lin Tian shook his head. He was too lazy to think about it anymore. No matter how good his comprehension was, he had finally comprehended it. Continue to cultivate, he muttered to himself. Cultivation had always been boring, especially now that he was truly alone in the limitless immortal school. In the following time, Lin Tian spent almost all his time comprehending the divining divine technique in the sea of consciousness formation during the day, and at night, he would guide the light of the stars and the spiritual energy in the air to cleanse his sea of consciousness and temper his physical body. In the blink of an eye, 3 days passed. During these days, the spiritual energy on the fallen immortal peak had obviously improved, becoming much richer than before. In this regard, Lin Tian more or less knew what was going on. It was related to the divining divine technique that he had obtained. Back then, when the divining divine technique was revived, it absorbed all the spiritual energy of the fallen immortal peak, causing the Tao marks of the divine technique to turn into little guys. Now that the Tao marks of the divining divine technique had been absorbed and disappeared by him, he naturally did not need to consume the spiritual energy of the fallen immortal peak. At noon, a gentle sun hung in the sky. Cultivation becomes stronger. Then, return to the first heaven. Lin Tian muttered to himself. There were people very important to him in the first heaven. He would become stronger and rush to a higher heaven. But before that, he had to return to the first heaven first. There were still some grievances in that world that he needed to settle personally. He would not show mercy. Walking into the sea of consciousness formation, the four extremity scripture began to operate, and he began to temper his sea of consciousness. Buzz! A faint light intertwined and lingered on the surface of his body. In the blink of an eye, 4 hours passed. 4 hours later, Lin Tian stood up and walked out of the sea of consciousness formation. When he came to the front of the ruin hall, he habitually looked forward and saw the Wuji Peak at a glance. On the Wuji Peak, light surrounded it. Because of the battle between the desolate demon body and Bai Ziki, the immortal plants and strange stones that were shattered had been rebuilt, and it was the same as before. However, Lin Tian did not care about these things. He just thought that there was one less friend there. Shaking his head, he turned around and walked toward the ruined hall. After tempering his sea of consciousness for 4 hours, He prepared to cultivate the art of array control and the art of alchemy. After taking a few steps, he suddenly frowned and stopped. When he turned around again, he saw a dozen figures striding over from the sky above the fallen immortal peak. In the blink of an eye, they landed on the peak. Lin Tian frowned as he recognized the leader of the group, a middle-aged man in green. He was one of the people who had been with Bai Ziki not long ago. "Is something the matter?" he asked. The middle-aged man said expressionlessly, "I want to borrow something from you." "What is it?" "Life." The middle-aged man in cyan stepped forward. His steps were very gentle, as if Lin Tian was just a corpse. Lin Tian's face darkened. "What do you mean?" "The Pearl of the Bai clan is not someone that any random cat or dog can get close to. Since you touched the princess of my clan, I can't let you live," the azure-robed middle-aged man said. Behind the middle-aged man were more than a dozen experts from the Bai family. Each of them had a powerful aura, and all of them were at the second layer of the Imperial Sky Realm. "Me? Get close to her? Touch her?" Lin Tian stared at the middle-aged man in cyan and said, "Your Bai family seems to be saying the opposite. You want to say that it was the young lady of my clan who approached you? Ridiculous. No matter what, I'll borrow your head today," the middle-aged man in cyan said indifferently. With a gesture, someone behind the middle-aged man in cyan approached Lin Tian. Lin Tian's face was cold. A few days ago, the people behind Bai Ziki stared at him with cold eyes. However, he never thought that the Bai family would send someone to kill him, and the reason was that he got close to Bai Chio. He stared at the middle-aged man in cyan. Silver light flashed in his eyes, and he could not see any emotion on the man's face. "Did she instruct you to do this?" he said coldly. "The young lady is young and naive. She doesn't know the dangers of the world. Some flies wanted to get close to her, so we took care of them," the middle-aged man in cyan said. Lin Tian immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Understood. He was really afraid that Bai Chio was involved in this matter. If that was the case, thinking about the time they spent together, he would feel bitterly disappointed. At the same time, he felt a little guilty. Bai Chio was really nice to him, and he actually suspected her. He tilted his head and looked at the sky. He saw a few middle-aged men standing in the distance. Among them were the master of the Wuji Peak, Muyang Feng, and the other masters of the main peaks. The one leading them was the master of the Wuji Gate, the master of the Wuji sect. He smiled faintly. He did not care. Since the Bai family was here, they would naturally inform the master of the Wuji sect. The master of the Wuji sect would definitely know about this matter, and would also go to the void to watch. As for the fact that the master of the Wuji sect did not protect him, it was not unexpected. The master of the Wuji sect did not protect him in the face of the 9 great sects, let alone the ancient Bai family that looked down on this heaven realm. "Forget it. There is no need to stay here. It is time to leave," he muttered to himself. He had already obtained the divination divine skill. Being in the fallen celestial peak, he could not get any resources from the sect. The master of the Wuji sect's attitude was the key to his decision to leave the Wuji Gate. There was no value in staying in such a great sect. "Leave? Do you think you can leave?" A cold voice sounded. Following the order of the middle-aged man in green, an expert from the Bai family rushed forward and directly grabbed Lin Tian. "Die," the expert from the Bai family said. Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. He clenched his right fist and punched out. "Although you are from the same family as her, that is this. I will not show mercy." With a boom, the void trembled because of his fist. The space directly distorted, and there were even small cracks appearing. The terrifying strength of his physical body was horrifying. With a poof, the hand of the expert from the Bai family was directly smashed into pieces. "Ah!" the expert from the Bai family screamed. However, Lin Tian's fist did not slow down and steadily landed on the man's chest. With a poof, the chest of the Bai family member was penetrated. Blood splattered on the ground of the fallen celestial peak, and he died on the spot. Lin Tian raised his head and looked forward. When his cultivation was at the 6th heavenly layer of the Sea of Consciousness, his physique was comparable to an expert at the 3rd heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm. Now that he was at the 8th heavenly layer of the sea of consciousness and had absorbed the Tao marks of the divination divine skill, his physique had become even stronger. It was comparable to an expert at the 5th heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm. This family member approached him at such a close distance and tried to grab him with his body. It was simply an act of seeking death. Seeing this scene, the faces of the family members changed. Killing an expert at the 2nd heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm with a single punch. Such a physique shocked everyone. At the same time, the expressions of the Wuji sect master and the Wuji peak master in the distant void also changed. This bastard, his physique is amazing. Feng sect master's face was gloomy. In the blink of an eye, one person was killed, and the face of the middle-aged man in green from the Bai family darkened. This person's name was Bai Yu. He stared coldly at Lin Tian and ordered, "Get rid of him as soon as possible." "Yes." The other members of the Bai family nodded. Immediately, 8 people rushed out. These 8 people were all Zephyr realm experts. Although they were only at the 2nd heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm, they were still very terrifying. The 8 of them rushed towards Lin Tian without mercy. They each used their divine abilities and martial techniques. For a moment, a tyrannical true essence fluctuation covered the sky and pressed down on Lin Tian. Lin Tian retreated. With a shake of his right hand, he condensed the Tao diagram of the 4 symbols and retreated forward. The Tao diagram of the 4 symbols shook and intertwined with light, annihilating all the martial techniques and divine abilities of the 8 people. They disappeared without a trace. Staring at this scene, everyone's faces froze. In the distance, the Wuji sect master frowned. "This is not a technique of our Wuji sect. This little bastard has joined us with a technique. It's hard to describe his scheming. He has shown this technique before, and it's very unusual." Feng sect master said. Staring at Lin Tian, Feng sect master's face turned cold. Because this technique had frozen Zheng Ye's true essence. Previously, for Lin Tian to release the technique, he had to pay a lot of treasures. Wuji Peak Master wanted to say something, but in the end, he shook his head. If the Bai family wanted to kill Lin Tian, who could stop them? What a pity for a genius. Wuji Peak Master shook his head. Genius? I think he's an evil realm being. Feng sect master snorted. Wuji sect master's face was calm. With his hands behind his back, he looked down. Bang! On the fallen immortal peak, the 8 people of the Bai family surrounded Lin Tian. Tyrannical true essence surged forth. It was extremely terrifying. Lin Tian frowned. He retreated. His fighting strength was strong, but facing the 8th heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm at the same time, the pressure was immense. It was difficult to fight them. Although the 4-symbol seal was astonishing, it was more of a seal. It was not suitable to fight against a group of people. "Just nice, let's try that technique." His eyes were cold. He took another step back. The 4 symbols Tao diagram shattered and disappeared. He gave up? He's just a small sea of consciousness cultivator. What can he do against us? Quickly slash him, the 8 of them said. Immediately, an even more astonishing true essence undulation was released. It pressed towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. His hands formed a seal. Suddenly, a light aura flickered. A broken mountain rushed out from behind him. A huge bell appeared. An old forest appeared in the air. Immediately, an astonishing chi spread out. It shook the air. "Kill!" Lin Tian Lung shouted. The broken mountain rushed out from behind him. The huge bell descended from the sky. The old forest pressed down with countless branches. It was mystical and mysterious. What technique is that? Everyone's face changed. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. With a thought, the broken mountain bell and the old forest pressed down on the nearest Bai family member. With a puff, the 3 divine elephants landed on his body. He could not dodge and was instantly crushed into a blood mist. Such a scene caused everyone's face to change. Very strong. Lin Tian's eyes flickered. At this time, what he used was naturally the divination divine art. The broken mountain bell and the old forest appeared. Its attack power was astonishing. Bayu's face was completely gloomy. The Bai family came with a lot of people. All of them were in the airborne realm, but now 2 of them had been killed by Lin Tian. Together, Bayu said coldly. With a boom, behind Bayu, more than a dozen people of the Bai family pressed forward together, suppressing Lin Tian. There were a total of 15 people. All of them were in the second tier of the airborne realm. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He stepped back and quickly formed a seal with his hands. Boom! A gray light flickered. A light realm rushed out from behind him. In it, a primitive mountain and an old forest appeared. There was also an astonishing beast roar. Seeing this scene, everyone's face suddenly changed, including the sect master of Wuji's sect. Barren Heaven Realm? How is that possible? The sect master of Wuji's sect cried out. I equals FIPS, LAS equals AGS, AGS. Chapter 337. Gray light flickered as the desolate mountains manifested. The roars of demonic beasts rang out. Lin Tian seemed to be holding up an entire desolate world as a terrifying aura gushed out. With a PU sound, an expert from the Bai clan was smashed into pieces. The Wuji Peak master was shocked. How is this possible? How can he use the Barren Heaven world? Not long ago, he fought Pitsong with the Barren Demon physique and fought against the Barren Heaven world. He knew this kind of Abijna best. It was the Barren Demon physique's Abijna. But now, Lin Tian used the same Barren Heaven world as the Barren Demon physique. The Barren Heaven world flickered and shook the space. It was terrifying. What's going on? The Limitless sect leader's eyes flickered as he stared at Lin Tian. At the same time, Miang Feng and the other peak masters were also shocked. Lin Tian used the Barren Demon physique's Abijna. How can you have this kind of power? This is impossible. Bayu shouted. Bayu was at the side when Bai Ziki and Pitsong fought. He also saw how Pitsong's Barren Heaven world could fight against the Divine Roar Palace. Now that Lin Tian used this kind of power, Bayu couldn't believe it. The Barren Heaven world was the Barren Demon physique's Abijna. It was the Abijna bestowed by the Barren Demon physique. No matter how strong others were, they couldn't use it. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He didn't say anything. Facing the dozen strong cultivators from the Bai family, he wasn't afraid at all. He shook his hands, and the desolate mountain behind him pressed down. Don't underestimate us. Crush it. Suppress. The Bai family's cultivators all looked cold. They used the Abijna from the sutra and attacked Lin Tian. Lin Tian waved his hands. The Barren Heaven world shook and gray light fell. Ah! A Bai family cultivator screamed. The light of the Abijna was destroyed and exploded under the desolate mountain. He died instantly. Poof! On the other side, another cultivator of the Bai clan was brushed by a ray of light from the Barren Heaven world and was torn to pieces. Lin Tianwei was shocked. He had seen the broken Barren Heaven world before. Now it was created using the divination divine spell. It was basically just a form, not even a tenth of the original power of the Barren Heaven world. Even so, it easily crushed the 3 Jinyu cultivators of the Bai clan. This made his heart skip a beat. This is the king's region of the king physique? It was too terrifying. Apart from the celestial venerate's secret technique, what other means are there to block it? His heart palpitated slightly. However, it was only for a moment before he calmed down again. Raising his head to look ahead, his eyes became incomparably cold. Your Bai family looks down on this heaven realm. Do you really think you're invincible? You can kill whoever you want? He said coldly. With a single thought, the Barren Heaven world he had conjured using the divining divine technique trembled and descended once more. With a poof, another Bai family cultivator was crushed, directly exploding in the Barren Heaven realm. Since when did an ant like you have the right to criticize my Bai clan? Gather your power and break that Barren Heaven world. Kill! There were still 11 people from the Bai clan, and all of them had cold expressions. Ant? Lin Tianling laughed. Facing the combined power of 11 people, he felt immense pressure, but he was still fearless. He waved his hands. and a sea of lightning rushed out behind him. Palaces appeared one after another and intertwined wantonly. Seeing this scene, the limitless sect master and the others in the distance were shocked again. Many of the Bai clan's powerhouses widened their eyes as if they were looking at a legendary god. Divine Roar Palace? Our sacred son's innate ability. Damn it, you scoundrel. How could you? Everyone from the Bai clan was shocked and furious. Lin Tianling sneered, and his eyes were ruthless. He seemed a little cruel. Your Bai clan is high and mighty. I'm using your king's region of the Thunder God physique to kill you. I wonder how you feel? Won't you feel honored? With a boom, the Divine Roar Palace fell, and lightning covered all directions. The sky above the fallen celestial peak turned pitch black. Dense bolts of lightning fell, destroying everything in their path. Ah! Someone screamed and was crushed under the Divine Roar Palace. Lin Tianling took a step forward, and the barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace pressed down on the 10 Bai clan cultivators. Demonic light and lightning fell at the same time. The 10 Bai clan cultivators displayed powerful abilities, but they couldn't stop the power of the two kings' regions at all. They were crushed. In the blink of an eye, another person was crushed and died under the Divine Roar Palace. Damn it! 9 of the 15 were left, and they were shocked and furious. Lin Tianling's face was cold, and he waved his hands again. Countless demonic beasts rushed out from the barren heaven world above his head. At the same time, there was a clear shout. In the Divine Roar Palace, a huge thunder shadow stood up and pulled out a sword. Kill, Lin Tianling said. The thunder shadow in the Divine Roar Palace slashed down, cutting 3 people into pieces and turning them into a bloody mist. Then, an endless amount of beasts roared. With the power to trample the sky, they drowned out the 2 Bai clan powerhouses and stomped them into meat paste. In the blink of an eye, only 4 of the 15 Bai clan cultivators were left. What's going on? First the barren heaven world, then the Divine Roar Palace. How can he do this? The Wuji Peak Master was shocked. What kind of demonic art did this bastard use? This is definitely not the real barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace. Muyang Feng clenched his fists. The Wuji Sect Master, an immortal Ascension Realm cultivator, also frowned and stared at Lin Tianling. This scene was simply too bizarre. On the top of the fallen immortal peak, more than 10 of his clan members were killed, and the murderous intent in Bai Yu's eyes finally reached its peak. With a whoosh, Bai Yu stepped out and slapped at Lin Tianling. A huge palm print appeared in the void, and it was misty. It was the secret art of the godly sutra, the godly palm. With a boom, the godly palm shook and the void twisted. The barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace both shook. Lin Tianling frowned and quickly retreated. This Bai Yu was at the pinnacle of the Zephyr Plane and was far stronger than him. He felt a great threat. The barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace were full of cracks under the godly palm. Take him down, one of the last 4 Bai clan cultivators said. While Bai Yu suppressed the barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace, the 4 of them rushed toward Lin Tianling. Lin Tianling's face was cold, and his hands moved again. This time, a hazy, illusory sword appeared above his head. The light sword was a bit twisted and hard to form, but it exuded an unparalleled power as soon as it appeared. What is this? The Wuji Peak Master and the others were shocked. This twisted light sword made their hearts tremble. They felt that it was much more terrifying than the barren heaven world and Divine Roar Palace. At the same time, Bai Yu was also shocked. Retreat, Bai Yu shouted. The expressions of the 4 people who were charging forward changed. They also felt the terror of this light sword, and they all retreated. It's too late, Lin Tianling said. With a thought, the illusory sword above his head swung down. This sword was the Jiuquan sword of an old drunkard that he had seen in the first celestial domain. It was said to be a broken divine weapon. Now, he used the divination divine skill to create the Jiuquan sword's divine form, and its power was extremely terrifying. Poof! 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 In the blink of an eye, the 4 people of the Bai clan were annihilated, and blood stained the surroundings. Bayu's eyes immediately widened, full of anger. Damn it! With a boom, an extremely terrifying aura rushed out of Bayu's body. He used the godly palm and pressed toward Lin Tianling. The Bai clan had followed him to clean up the uncertain factors. But now, except for him, everyone else was dead. Boom! The glowing palm caused the void to tremble. Lin Tianling naturally felt how terrifying Baiyu was and quickly retreated. After all, Baiyu was an expert at the peak of the Zephyr Plane, far more powerful than the dozen Bai clan cultivators he had killed. They couldn't be compared at all. As he retreated, he waved his hands and activated the Jiuquan sword, the barren heaven world, and the divine Cry Palace at the same time. The two collided, and with a boom, the space shook. Cough! Lin Tianling flew backward, blood gushing out of his mouth. He felt that his organs had cracked, and he felt intense pain. Bayu's face was cold, and he slapped toward Lin Tianling. Lin Tianling gritted his teeth and activated the barren heaven world, the divine Cry Palace, and the Jiuquan sword again. Then, he retreated again and rushed toward the old forest in the distance. Boom! The barren heaven world, the divine Cry Palace, and the Jiuquan sword were shocking. However, compared to Lin Tianling, Baiyu was too terrifying. Although the divination divine skill was powerful, it couldn't stop the other party at all. "You can't leave," Baiyu said coldly. In the sky, the limitless sect master stared at Lin Tianling and frowned. The barren heaven world, the divine Cry Hall, and that illusory sword. Frowning, the patriarch of the limitless sect muttered to himself. He racked his brains, and after a dozen breaths of time, his expression suddenly changed. Could it be that he found that Celestial venerates precious technique? Beside him, the peak master of the Wuji Peak and Myong Feng heard the limitless sect master's voice and couldn't help but change their expressions. Is it the technique that was lost in my limitless immortal school? The divination divine skill is said to be able to simulate all things, and it can simulate all divine skills and precious weapons. It's impossible for him to be in the barren heaven world and the divine Cry Palace. Did he really find that paragon skill? The peak masters were all shocked. The Wuji Gate had been passed down for thousands of years. It had always been said that the divination divine skill was lost in the sect, but no one had ever found it. Now, this new disciple who had just joined the sect for a month had found the legendary battle Saint technique. "Stop him! I want him alive!" The limitless sect master shouted. With that, the limitless sect master moved himself. In a flash, he rushed toward Lin Tian. When an immortal cultivator moved, the power was really terrifying. Lin Tian was so shocked that he felt a chill of death on his back. However, although he was shocked, he wasn't afraid. He didn't panic. After all, he had endured the pressure of a Wujian cultivator before. "Rise!" He gritted his teeth. With a clang, the fallen immortal peak shook. Dense flaming swords rushed up, and the 4-symbol seal formation flashed. In the blink of an eye, the flaming swords and the 4-symbol seal formation covered all directions, almost covering the entire fallen immortal peak. Not long ago, the 9 sects came to find trouble with him. The limitless sect master knew that he was not in the wrong, but he still didn't protect him. After that, he didn't pay any attention to the Wuji Gate. Moreover, after that, he used the formation control technique to bury dense martial fusion runes and solitary lock runes on the fallen immortal peak. There was also the sun-incinerating sword Qi and the 4-symbol seal formation. Now, all the martial fusion runes appeared together and rushed out. With such a method, even Baiyu, who was at the peak of the airborne realm, changed his expression. The Wuji Peak Master was also shocked. The limitless sect master's eyes were filled with treasure light. He slapped out with his palm and directly shattered everything. At the same time, this powerful existence in the immortal realm secretly transmitted his voice to Lin Tian. "Lin Tian, don't resist. I'm suppressing you now, but I won't really kill you. I'll definitely protect you in the future." Seeing the technique Lin Tian used, The limitless sect master was sure that Lin Tian had found the divination divine technique. At this time, he wanted to keep Lin Tian in the Wuji Gate. "Thank you, sect master, but there's no need," Lin Tian responded. His expression was cold. At this moment, he appeared on a round stone in the old forest. Chapter 338. The round rock was covered in dust, but as Lin Tian stepped onto it, the dust instantly dispersed, revealing veins that emitted a faint silver light that surrounded his entire body. Wanted to read a spatial teleportation platform? Bayu's expression changed. The limitless sect master was also moved. He quickly said, "Lin Tian, stop. The Wuji Gate will definitely protect you." At this time, the limitless sect master did not have time to think about why the fallen immortal peak had a spatial teleportation platform. He only wanted to keep Lin Tian here. Lin Tian was extremely valuable now. Lin Tian's cold eyes swept across Bayu, the limitless sect master, and the others. "Goodbye," he said coldly. He had passed through the space-time portal before, so he was naturally familiar with spatial teleportation. With a buzz, light flashed, and in the next moment, his figure disappeared from the stone platform and the fallen immortal peak. Specks of dust floated in the air as the limitless sect master rushed to the side of the round rock. The formation pattern is broken. The limitless sect master's expression was ugly. The round rock was intact, but more than half of the formation pattern on it was broken. It was obvious that it could no longer be used for spatial teleportation. "Why is there a spatial teleportation platform on this abandoned main peak of yours?" Bayu roared in a low voice. As a powerhouse of the Bai family, although Bayu's cultivation was not as high as the limitless sect master's, he did not take him seriously at all. At this time, his expression was very ugly. He was ordered to lead a group of people to clean up Lin Tian, but the result was like this. Except for him, more than 10 people were killed, and Lin Tian escaped unscathed. The limitless sect master did not speak, but his eyes flickered with a strange light. "Sect master." A group of peak masters flew over. Staring at the broken teleportation formation pattern, they all frowned. "That bastard." Muyang Feng's face was gloomy. Bayu flicked his sleeves angrily and directly stepped into the void, heading towards the Bai family. He had to report Lin Tian's escape immediately. Endless darkness. The surrounding pressure was extremely strong, as if it was going to crush everything. Lin Tian was in the darkness and appeared to be very calm. This was not the first time he had traveled through a spatial fragment. Time passed. Lin Tian didn't know how much time had passed. Not long after, light appeared in front of them, and the darkness disappeared in an instant. "Where is this?" He looked around and found himself in a strange valley. The ground was full of 3-leaf clovers, and the spirit chi was very abundant. Looking up, there were quite a few strange stones in this valley. They were brownish-black in color and were about a zhang tall. Occasionally, when a breeze blew in, the 3 leaves would sway on their own. Lin Tian walked forward. Not long after, she saw the little civet cat, the white rabbit, and many familiar little fellows. It was very similar to the scene on the fallen immortal peak. "Ah!" A small fox cried softly, blinking its beautiful big eyes as it stared at Lin Tian. Lin Tian crouched down, and the little guys in the valley immediately surrounded him. The little fox let out a soft cry again. Its appearance was almost the same as that of the little fox on the fallen immortal peak. It walked into the distance, and after walking a few feet away, it turned back to look at Lin Tian. It seemed to be hinting for Lin Tian to follow it. Lin Tian paused for a moment, but he didn't hesitate and followed it. Following the little fox, he soon arrived in front of a stone. The stone was very rough, but it gave him a very strange feeling. The 3-leaf clovers around the stone platform were denser, and the strangest thing was that the 3-leaf clovers here were black and white. This made Lin Tian feel a little strange. This was the first time he had seen 3-leaf clovers like this. The little fox let out another soft cry, staring at Lin Tian, and raised its little paw to point upward. Lin Tian looked up and saw a stone wall behind the stone. It was as rough as the stone platform. On the stone wall, a line of ancient words was engraved in the middle. It was grand and majestic, and Tao flowed around it. Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets all things. Lin Tian read it subconsciously. After the ancient words, there were two seal scripts engraved. Tao benevolence. Beside his feet, the little fox turned into light, and sparkling starlight surrounded him. Lin Tian shuddered as he stood in front of the stone wall. All of a sudden, ancient drawings appeared in his sea of divine sense. It was a familiar mountain peak, and a hazy figure was in it, sitting cross-legged on a round stone. Around the round stone, there were countless little fellows jumping around, and they were not afraid of humans at all. Night and day alternated, and the stars moved. The hazy figure waved its hands, and behind it a broken mountain appeared, an old forest stretched out horizontally, a big bell circled, and an ancient sword hung in the air. The starry sky condensed, and it was majestic and vast. Then, the hazy figure's eyes lit up and became deep. It casually swept the stone platform below it, and a formation pattern appeared, and it disappeared in an instant. In the next moment, the hazy figure appeared in a valley. With a step, flowers bloomed everywhere, and withered trees came back to life. It sat down on a square stone. Then, time flashed, and it seemed like 1,000 years had passed. Yin and yang intertwined around the hazy figure, and behind it, the broken mountain, the big bell, and the old forest appeared again. The sky suddenly changed color, and endless lightning appeared vaguely. Tao is Yin, Tao is Yang, Tao is benevolence, Tao is me. Tao gives birth to all things. With a boom, Lin Tian's divine sense shook, and all the images disappeared. His eyes flashed, and Lin Tian stared at the stone platform and stone wall in front of him with a face full of disbelief. Countless years ago, the hazy figure comprehended the Tao on the ordinary main peak, deduced Yin and Yang, and created the heavens divination divine technique. After 1,000 years, he stabilized his Tao fruit and entered the chaotic realm. Staring at the stone, Lin Tian was moved. That person is Celestial Venerable Daorin. I see. The fallen celestial peak is the mountain where Celestial Venerable Daorin created the heavens divination divine technique in ancient times. During the process of creating the heavens divination divine technique, the Tao marks of the technique fell around the main peak and awakened in the future. The formation pattern on the round stone was also casually left by Celestial Venerable Daorin. I see, so that's how it is. Lin Tian was surprised. He finally understood why the heavens divination divine technique existed on the fallen celestial peak. He also finally understood why there was a space teleportation array in the old forest. Coincidence or fate? Lin Tian muttered to himself. Staring at the stone platform in front of him, Lin Tian paused for a moment before bowing deeply. Then, he stepped onto the platform. Celestial Venerable Daorin was benevolent and had once sat on this stone platform for 1,000 years. If he could cultivate on this stone platform for a while, he would definitely gain unimaginable benefits. Lin Tian took a deep breath, then closed his eyes and activated the four extremities meridian. One. A faint light flickered and circled around his body. Tao begets one, one begets two, two begets three, and three begets all things. Lin Tian repeated to himself. These were the words that Celestial Venerable Daorin left behind after he attained the Tao, and they were filled with endless mysteries. On one hand, they were in response to the heavens divination divine technique's principle of evolution. At the same time, Lin Tian felt that there was a more ultimate Tao meaning in these words. Even though it was difficult for him to comprehend it now, he believed that if he studied it over and over again, there would be unexpected results. After reading a book 100 times, its meaning would be revealed. He believed in these words. One. Faint silver light intertwined around his body. He recited the ancient words left by Celestial Venerable Daorin over and over again, and he felt a warm halo coming out of his body. Then, His sea of consciousness began to expand at an astonishing speed. The sea of consciousness that was originally the size of a pond became as big as a river in the blink of an eye, and then it became as big as an ocean. Whoosh! At the same time, under the stone, the black and white clover swayed, and rays of strange light shot up into the sky. Black light and white light intertwined, encircling Lin Tian within. Time was boring, and 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. The news that the Bai family entered Wuji Gate to kill Lin Tian spread silently. Suddenly, many forces were shocked. What? The Bai family sent people to kill him? What's going on? Investigate. Didn't the eldest princess of the Bai family protect him that day? What's the meaning of this? Damn it, that day. Since he doesn't have the support of the Bai family, there's no need to worry about leaving Wuji Gate. Find him and suppress him. We must get the weapon control technique. We must repay the humiliation of that day. In the 9 major sects, voices sounded one after another. The alchemist family, the Shun family. Shun Honyuan had temporarily returned to his family from the Limitless Immortal School and was laughing loudly in a large hall. I originally thought that he had some sort of close relationship with the Bai family, and all the methods that I had prepared were put aside, but who would have thought that the Bai family would actually want to kill him? Just right, just right. After a pause, Shen Hong looked out of the window and ordered, passed down the order. No matter what, we must catch Lin Tian. This is a very important matter for the family. Wuji Gate, no matter what method we use, we must invite Lin Tian back. Remember, invite him back. No one is allowed to do anything. The Wuji sect master ordered. At the end of the east of the second heaven, the ancient Bai family. Trash. You can't even handle such a small matter. And you even leaked the news. The 3 elders of the Bai family looked cold. Bai Yu knelt on one knee, not daring to say a word. However, this person is not ordinary to be able to create the Forsaken Heaven Realm and the Divine Cry Temple. It seems that the girl already knows. The marriage with that person from the Li family will determine whether the family can advance further. There must be no mistakes. One of the elders stared at Bai Yu and said, "Don't do anything on the surface. Secretly send the strong cultivators of the family to find this person. We must kill him." Yes. Bai Yu lowered his head and carefully left the hall. In the center of the Bai family, the aura of Yin surged and swept around. "You've gone too far." Bai Chio's body was surrounded by a dark light. After hearing the news from the outside world, tears fell. "He is my only friend. He stood up for me twice. But you treat him like this. He has many secrets. Now that he has escaped from Wuji Gate, the outside world knows that the Bai family wants to kill him. They will target him even more. How do you expect him to survive in this heaven realm alone? How can I face him in the future? It has nothing to do with me." Bai Ziki stood at the side and silently watched as his younger sister raged. Bai Chio walked out, surrounded by the aura of Yin. "Where are you going?" Bai Ziki blocked her way. "I want to go out and find him." "No, move." Bai Ziki frowned. "You should know why the family wants to kill him. Stay here." Bai Chio cried, "Brother." Bai Ziki sighed. Seeing his sister cry, his heart softened. "Don't worry. He can block my divine cry temple. He won't die so easily." A light breeze blew in the valley. Buzz! On the stone platform, Lin Tian forgot everything. His entire body was surrounded by black and white light. The black and white light entered his mind from his forehead and intertwined around the white lotus. Gradually, the pure white lotus began to change, faintly showing the color of black and white. P.S. Toothache. After taking the medicine, I'm so sleepy that I can't hold back my tears. Sorry, I'll only update once today. Then I'll make up for it next weekend. Chapter 339. The valley was surrounded by light. In Lin Tian's sea of knowledge, the white lotus swayed as if there was a breeze blowing. In his sea of knowledge, black and white light intertwined around the lotus, causing the petals to gradually change color. Whoa! The faint light swayed. On the white lotus, the black and white light formed a ring and gradually became one. Lin Tian closed his eyes. The light between his eyebrows shone brightly, and his sea of knowledge became wider. At this moment, the black and white light covered the entire valley. Then, strands of light gathered around Lin Tian, circling around the stone platform, and finally rushed into Lin Tian's sea of knowledge. At the same time, a part of it remained outside his body, forming the shape of a yin-yang fish. Lin Tian recited the words engraved by Lord Daorin on the stone wall behind him. Although his eyes were closed, he felt that the whole world had become brighter. Following that, the black and white light in the valley became even more intense and blazing. In the blink of an eye, in Lin Tian's sea of knowledge, the originally pure white lotus gave birth to black and white. It really became stable. Negative yin and embrace yang, back yang and face yin. Lin Tian moved his hands. His whole person was immersed in the sea of knowledge. Sitting cross-legged on the stone platform, he forgot everything and just focused on cultivating the four extremities scriptures. The black and white light surrounded him. In the blink of an eye, 7 days had passed. In these 7 days, he didn't eat, drink, sleep, or rest. However, there was no major problem. Instead, his essence, qi, and spirit were more vigorous, as if a flame had grown into a sea of fire. On this day, he finally opened his eyes. 2 rays of light flashed in his eyes. When he looked up, he found that the black and white clover around the stone platform had turned green. This made him a little surprised. Then he scanned his sea of knowledge and was surprised again. In these 7 days, his cultivation didn't change much, but his divine sense was more than 10 times stronger. His sea of knowledge was vast and boundless, almost comparable to a celestial reaching realm elite. At the same time, what surprised him the most was the lotus in his sea of consciousness. The originally pure white lotus was now black and white, and there was an astonishing aura lingering around it. Glancing around the stone platform, the black and white 3-leaf clover had turned pure white, and the white lotus in his sea of consciousness had turned black and white. It was as if the black and white light on the 3-leaf clover had fallen off, and then imprinted on his white lotus. Celestial Venerable Daorin comprehended yin and yang back then and created the heavenly divine art. Is this black and white the light of yin and yang? Lin Tian was surprised. He scanned his sea of consciousness and saw that the white lotus had turned into the yin-yang twin lotus. Staring at these newly born lotus flowers, Lin Tian moved his mind. Instantly, white and black lotus flowers floated out, surrounded by black and white light, causing the space to faintly tremble. The tyrannical fluctuations were clearly at least 3 times stronger than the pure white lotus from before. Slightly surprised, Lin Tian hurriedly put it away. Next, his will moved again. He didn't form a seal, but the barren heaven world, divine roar hall, and Jiuquan sword appeared behind him. Moreover, its power was even stronger than before. Very good. Lin Tian clenched his fists. In 7 days, his cultivation didn't change, but the white lotus in his sea of consciousness had turned into the yin-yang twin lotus, and its power had become stronger. And his comprehension of the heavenly divine art had improved by leaps and bounds in these 7 days. It was as if he had cultivated diligently for several years. Most importantly, he felt that he had comprehended a trace of the great Tao, the natural great Tao that gave birth to all things. This made Lin Tian the most surprised and excited. One had to know that comprehending the great Tao was something that only great Tao realm experts could do. Now, he was only in the sea of consciousness, but he had already comprehended a trace of the natural great Tao and understood a trace of the truth that the great Tao gave birth to all things. This was really shocking, and it would be indescribably beneficial to his future growth. Standing up from the stone platform, Lin Tian leaped down, turning around to look at the stone platform and stone wall behind him. Lin Tian bowed 90 degrees, solemnly bowing. This was left behind by Celestial Venerable Daorin in the past. He could have his current achievements completely because of celestial, venerable Doran's immortal fate. Raising his head and looking around, a glint flashed across his eyes. It was time to leave. Taking one last look at the stone wall, Lin Tian turned around and left. Not long after, he walked out of this valley and appeared in a primitive old forest. There were many demonic beasts in this old forest, but there weren't many that were powerful. Almost all of them were very weak, and the strongest was only at the 7th level. A few 7th-level demonic beasts came out to attack Lin Tian when they saw him. With a slap, they were smashed into a bloody mist. Passing through the old forest, Lin Tian quickly came to the main road. "Where is this? I'll find someone to ask," he muttered to himself. There were more than a dozen cultivators in front of him, and they didn't look weak. They seemed to be searching for something. He walked forward, looked at one of the yellow-robed men, and said, "Brother, may I know where this is?" There were many things that he didn't know about this second heaven. The yellow-robed man was about 30 years old, and he was in the 5th level of the Sea of Consciousness. He said casually, "In the east of the second heaven, Daluo Mountain Forest, adjacent to Green Flame Immortal School, and at the end of it is the Ancient Bai family." As he said this, the yellow-robed man stared at Lin Tian, and his expression changed slightly. He quickly took out a picture scroll from his chest. After looking at it, his expression changed again, and he was surprised and happy. "It's you? Lin Tian." "Who? Lin Tian? Is it that Lin Tian who has the weapon control technique?" All around, a swarm of people looked over. Someone took out the picture scroll and looked at Lin Tian again. Suddenly, they were shocked. A few days ago, the news that the Bai family went to Wuji Gate to suppress Lin Tian leaked out. Then, more rumors spread in an instant. Among them, Lin Tian's weapon control technique became something that everyone knew. Because not long ago, in the ancient alchemist tomb, many cultivators had seen Lin Tian use the weapon control technique, and the news spread like wildfire. Many people were very jealous of this martial art that was known as the only martial art that surpassed divine powers. This martial art was not difficult to cultivate, and its attacking power was very strong. It was even recorded in ancient books that when this martial art was cultivated to the extreme, it could almost be compared to the most powerful celestial master's secret technique. As a result, it naturally attracted everyone's attention. Moreover, after this, some people even drew Lin Tian's portrait and sold it everywhere, making a lot of money. Hand over the weapon control technique. Hand over the weapon control technique, and we'll pretend that we never saw you and let you go. Yes. More than 10 cultivators surrounded Lin Tian. Among these people, there were independent cultivators and sect disciples. All of them were extremely strong, and they were all Sea of Consciousness cultivators. Lin Tian frowned. "What's going on?" He looked at the yellow-robed man in front of him. "Cut the crap. We're asking you now. Hand over the weapon control technique, and we won't kill you." The yellow-robed man shouted. "The Bai family seems to want to kill you. You'd better hurry. Otherwise, if the Bai family finds you, you'll die without a complete corpse." "That's right. Quickly hand over the weapon control technique to us." "Hand it over." The group of people shouted. Lin Tian's eyes were cold, and he disappeared with a whoosh. The next moment, he appeared in front of the yellow-robed man and grabbed his neck. "Speak, what's going on?" he said coldly. Since these people wanted to take his treasured technique, he naturally did not need to show mercy. Being grabbed by the neck by Lin Tian, the yellow-robed man's expression changed drastically, and he struggled with all his strength. "He's resisting. Do it. Suppress him first." Around them, other people called out. Suddenly, more than 10 people all rushed forward. With a boom, the sword light and the tyrannical martial art directly covered the surroundings. Lin Tian grabbed the yellow-robed man's neck and twisted slightly. Immediately, his neck was shattered and he was killed on the spot. Looking around, he waved his right hand casually. Suddenly, a large amount of sword light appeared, and the light of flames distorted the surroundings, clanging. Pooh! 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 Blood exploded, and in the blink of an eye, more than 10 people who rushed forward were all killed. It was also at this time that with a whoosh, a flame rushed into the sky and then exploded, revealing a flaming green color. 10 feet away, a young man was escaping into the distance. It was this young man who released the flame. Lin Tian glanced at the green flame in the sky, and his feet flashed. After 3 breaths, he blocked in front of the young man and kicked him to the ground. "Speak, what's going on?" "You poo." A cold sword appeared in Lin Tian's hand and directly pierced the young man's arm. The young man was in pain and immediately screamed. With a clang, another long sword appeared in Lin Tian's hand. "Don't waste my patience." "What's going on?" Seeing the cold light of the long sword in Lin Tian's hand, the young man was terrified and immediately told him everything. Lin Tian frowned, and his hand holding the long sword tightened. Damn it! It was rare for him to curse, and he chopped off the young man's head. In just a few days, he had become the enemy of the world. By family. A cold light flashed in Lin Tian's eyes. All of this was due to the Bai family. Looking around, he moved and walked in a direction. Almost at the same time, in Green Flame Celestial Sect, an elder saw the green flame in the sky. That bastard appeared in the Daluo mountain forest. Immediately, an expert from Green Flame Celestial Sect flew out and rode the void. Not long after, the other large sects received the news. The Alchemist Shin family, the Ancient Bai family, and a few other large sects all moved out and headed for the Daluo mountain forest. In the Daluo mountain forest, Lin Tian looked around and casually walked in a direction. However, it did not take long for him to feel a powerful true yuan fluctuation. Found him. Keep him alive. Suppress him first. In the distance, a dozen powerful cultivators rushed over. They were all disciples of Green Flame Celestial Sect, and all of them were at the pinnacle of the spiritual sea. Lin Tian's eyes narrowed. Someone had found him so quickly. An upper-grade Supreme Treasure Sword appeared in his hand, and he used the 4th sword of the 9 styles of the Burning Sun to slash open a flame tornado. Poof! 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 A bloody mist spread out, and the dozen cultivators at the pinnacle of the spiritual sea were instantly shredded into pieces. Such a terrifying sword might immediately cause the expressions of the few survivors to change greatly. Back off. You're not his match. A cold voice sounded. A white-robed man walked over from the void. He had a heroic appearance, and he was at the 3rd heaven of the Zephyr realm. P.S. I recommend a friend's book, True Martial Divine King. He's an old author with a good reputation. You can read it without worry. End of chapter. Chapter 340. The white-clad man's name was Mo Shuyuan. The purplish-green saber in his hand shone brightly. It was a high-grade supreme treasure. Senior brother Mo? He's one of the candidates for the next sect leader of the Green Flame Celestial Sect. He won. He'll definitely be able to suppress Lin Tian. Suppressing this person and obtaining the weapon-controlling art will be a great achievement. The next sect leader will most likely be Senior Brother Mo. The people of the Green Flame Celestial Sect discussed among themselves. Mo Shuyuan walked in the air and soon arrived above Lin Tian. He looked down at Lin Tian indifferently. A person like you won't be willing to be captured without a fight. Let's see how many of my moves you can block, Mo Shuyuan said. As soon as he finished speaking, Mo Shuyuan made his move. A blinding energy saber shot out. The energy saber was about 3 meters long. There was a long tail of light behind it. It looked like a comet. Lin Tian raised his hand and directly slapped out with a palm, shattering this saber light. The Green Flame Celestial Sect is stealing my treasured art in public. Aren't you afraid that the world will laugh at you? He said. The world? Right now, all the cultivators in the Heaven Realm are looking for you. They want to compete for the weapon-controlling art. Mo Shuyuan said expressionlessly. Treasured arts belong to those who are capable. A small cultivator like you isn't qualified to master such a grand art. Lin Tian sneered. You sound superior when you say something as despicable as stealing someone's treasured art. That's the truth. With your current strength, how can you master such a grand art? Mo Shiyuan said coldly. Strength? Lin Tian stood where he was. He was not in a hurry. He said calmly, what kind of strength do you think I need to master such a grand art? Mo Shiyuan stepped down and landed on the ground. You need to be at least at my level. At your level? Lin Tian stared at him. Are you saying that you're very powerful now? More powerful than you? Mo Shiyuan said. Mo Shiyuan said. As soon as he finished speaking, another energy saber slashed out. This time, it was 3 times stronger than the previous one. It slashed toward Lin Tian's legs. Obviously, Mo Shiyuan wanted to cut off Lin Tian's legs and take him away to get the precious technique from Lin Tian. Lin Tian raised his right hand and grabbed the energy saber before shattering it. How is this possible? Our Green Flame Celestial Sect's strongest martial skill, the Green Flame Saber skill, was crushed by his bare hands. This, not far away, the people from Green Flame Immortal School were shocked. Mo Shiyuan stared at Lin Tian. There was a slight fluctuation in his eyes, but his expression became even colder. You are indeed very strong to be able to escape from Wuji Gate. It seems that normal martial arts techniques can't hurt you. As soon as he finished speaking, the aura outside Mo Shiyuan's body changed. He directly propped up more than 10 flame wheels, causing the surrounding air to distort. Azure Flame Divine Wheel. One of the 10 great divine abilities of my Green Flame Immortal School. Senior brother Mo has already cultivated this divine ability to a lesser extent. He actually used it on that person. Many disciples from Green Flame Immortal School were shocked. Mo Shiyuan said, show me your weapon control technique. Let me see how powerful the legendary martial skill that surpasses divine abilities is. With a loud bang, dozens of flaming wheels trembled and charged towards Lin Tian. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. A desolate mountain rushed out from behind him. Demon beasts roared and swallowed the flame wheels. This is that demon's territory, the barren heaven realm? How can he be in the barren heaven realm? Could it be the barren demon body too? But isn't that a physique that only demons have? Seeing the barren heaven realm, everyone's expression changed. Even Mo Shiyuan was shocked. How can you know the barren demon body's innate divine ability? Not long ago, Patsong, the barren demon body, had challenged everyone below the Immortal Ascension realm in the top 10 sections. He had displayed the barren heaven realm in all the sections. Mo Shiyuan and the other disciples from Green Flame Immortal School naturally knew about the barren heaven realm. Their expressions all changed. Suppress. Lin Tian. With a thought, the barren heaven realm pressed down from the sky, covering Mo Shiyuan. Damn it! Burn it clean! Mo Shiyuan shouted. The Green Flame Divine will shot up and burn the space. It was going to break through the barren heaven realm. However, the barren heaven realm that Lin Tian created with the divination divine art was very scary. After meditating in the valley for 7 days, his understanding of the divination divine art had reached a small success. Now that he created the barren heaven realm, it had 50% of the power of the barren heaven realm. Ka! With a crisp sound, the Green Flame Divine Wheel was directly shattered. Mo Shiyuan was sent flying on the spot as he spat out large mouthfuls of blood. Lin Tian stepped forward and looked down at Mo Shiyuan. Is this power stronger than yours? Is it qualified to control the Paragon technique? Mo Shiyuan's expression turned cold and dark. You, ridiculous. With a cold snort, the barren heaven realm pressed down mercilessly. Senior brother Mo, damn it, stop. The people from the Green Flame Celestial Sect shouted. Some of them rushed forward. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He waved the superior grade sword in his right hand and slashed out the 5th sword of the 9 stances of the burning sun poof. Poof! Poof! In the blink of an eye, everyone who rushed forward was killed. At this time, the barren heaven realm was already above Mo Shiyuan's head. The terrifying pressure distorted the space. Green Flame Divine Wheel. Mo Shiyuan roared. This time, He used the upper-grade Supreme Treasure Saber to vibrate the divine power. A giant divine wheel rushed up and forcefully blasted away the forsaken heaven world that Lin Tian had conjured using the divining divine technique. Then, the green flame divine wheel behind him became even more powerful and terrifying. The wheel spun and interweaved endless flaming blades, slashing the space. Lin Tian narrowed his eyes and said, "Not bad. You're much stronger than the dozen second sky, plain cultivators from the Bai family. No wonder you're one of the candidates for the next sect master of the Green Flame Celestial Sect. You're indeed very strong. If I hadn't meditated for the past 7 days, it might have been difficult to defeat you. I might not even be your match. But now," as he finished, Lin Tian's eyes turned cold. A sea of lightning rushed up behind him, and an illusory sword appeared above his head. Divine Roar Palace. 9-spring sword. Boom! As soon as the two divine elephants appeared, shocking ripples spread out. Mo Shiyuan's expression changed. "You suppress," Lin Tian said. With a crack, Mo Shiyuan's green flame divine wheel was shattered. Then, he activated the 3 divine elephants and pressed them down on Mo Shiyuan. Mo Shiyuan flew away. Half of his body was split open, but he didn't die immediately. This surprised Lin Tian. He took the barren heaven realm, divine roar palace, and 9-spring sword head-on and didn't die immediately. "You're very strong. Unfortunately, you have no future." His expression was cold. Blood gushed out of Mo Shiyuan's mouth. The arrogance on his face disappeared. Fear appeared in his eyes. Stop. Not possible." The barren heaven realm pressed down mercilessly and turned Mo Shiyuan into a bloody mist. After killing Mo Shiyuan, Lin Tian put away the barren heaven realm, divine roar palace, and 9-spring sword. His expression was calm, as if he had done something insignificant. Not long ago, he meditated in Heavenly Lord Doran's enlightenment place for 7 days. Although his cultivation didn't change much, his combat power was much stronger. Killing Mo Shiyuan, who was in the 3rd level of the Zephyr realm, was nothing. At this moment, many tyrannical true essence fluctuations surged from extremely far away, causing his expression to change slightly. News sure travels fast. His expression turned cold. Without hesitation, he stepped on the yin and yang hua and disappeared into the Daoyuo forest. Not long after he left, a large group of cultivators arrived. Among them were cultivators from the 10 major sections. Seeing the corpses and bloody mist on the ground, many people's expressions changed. These corpses seemed to be from the Green Flame Celestial Sect. Could they all be killed by Lin Tian? I heard that Mo Shiyuan from the Green Flame Celestial Sect came personally. Why don't I see him? Could he be dead too? That's impossible. Mo Shiyuan is very powerful. He must have gone to chase after Lin Tian. Many people discussed. Some cultivators scanned the surroundings and used their divine sense to capture the true essence fluctuations in the air. Then they quickly chased in a direction. "Follow him," someone said. In an instant, the densely packed cultivators rushed down in one direction. Lin Tian shuttled through the Daoyuo forest. His steps were fast, and he soon crossed the Daoyuo forest and appeared on the other side. Clang! A sword light slashed from the front, almost splitting the void. Lin Tian's expression changed. He moved 3 feet to the side and dodged the sword light. "Good spiritual sense." A voice rang out. 10 feet away stood 9 middle-aged men. Each of them emitted an extremely powerful aura as if they had been guarding this place. "Who is it?" Lin Tian on Dao. The aura of these 9 people was very powerful. They were much stronger than Mo Shiyuan. "The person who will kill you," one of them said. His voice was cold. As soon as he finished speaking, this person charged forward. Powerful fluctuations swept out. Behind this person, a mist of light rushed out, and a large amount of sword light rushed out. Lin Tian's expression changed. He immediately sensed a familiar aura, and his face turned cold. "Divine Sutra? Bai family." His eyes were cold. The middle-aged man who charged over had cold eyes. He directly used the Divine Sutra palm and pressed down on Lin Tian. Lord Baiyu said that this person's physical body is extremely strong, and he can summon the Forsaken Heaven Realm and Divine Cry Palace. We must be careful. The three patriarchs mean to kill him as soon as possible. Together, the other 8 said. Suddenly, the 8 middle-aged men rushed out together. All of them used the Divine Sutra, and the powerful force shook the surrounding space. These 9 people were all at the 3rd tier of the Zephyr Realm. They had cultivated for decades, and their combat strength and battle experience were very shocking. Lin Tian put away the treasure sword in his hand, and his face became extremely cold. "I'll kill you all." It could be said that 99% of the credit was due to the Bai family that he had fallen to this point and was targeted by everyone in the world. With a shake of his right hand, he directly condensed the 4 symbols Tao diagram and faced the middle-aged man who rushed over first. In an instant, it covered the other party's Divine Sutra palm and swallowed all the vital essence fluctuations in the sky. The Divine Sutra palm that annihilated my clan? This person's expression changed. What kind of technique is this? The technique to kill you, Lin Tian said coldly. The yin and yang liang spread out, and a long sword appeared in his hand again. He instantly went behind this person and stabbed the sword behind him. With a poof, blood splattered. The long sword came out of the person's chest and directly pierced through his heart. Chapter 341. Blood splattered in the air, making the other 8 people's expressions change. Ark, the middle-aged man who had his heart pierced, roared. With a boom, a violent aura rushed out of the man's body, attacking Lin Tian from behind. Lin Tian pulled out his sword and quickly retreated. Airborne realm cultivators are tough indeed. You didn't die right away after having your heart pierced. He stared at the man with a cold face and continued. But how long do you think you can live like this? The middle-aged man glared at Lin Tian, his eyes full of flames. With a roar, the middle-aged man charged at Lin Tian, casting the Divine Sutra. Light shrouded Lin Tian's surroundings. Lin Tianling snorted and flicked his finger. The 4 symbols diagram flew out quickly, devouring the light of the middle-aged man's spell. Immediately after, he cast the 6th move of the 9 moves of the burning sun and slashed it. With a clang, the sword light clanged and flames filled the sky, passing through the gap opened by the 4 symbols diagram. PFFTD. Blood splattered. The middle-aged man's throat was pierced, and his body was drowned in flames. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. The other 8 people who came from afar were all furious. B***starred. Someone roared and attacked with a sword. Lin Tian retreated. With a shake of his sword, he cast the 7th move of the burning sun. The clanging sound was very ear-piercing. A fiery sword fell from the sky, as if it was going to split the sky open. You think you're worthy of being angry? Lin Tianling smirked. With another shake of his sword, he cast the 8th move of the 9 moves of the burning sun. An old drunkard had personally practiced this sword technique for him. Now that his cultivation was high enough, he could easily cast it. The 8th move shook. The astonishing fiery sword pressed down, causing the 8 airborne realm cultivators' expressions to change slightly. However, the 8 of them were still powerful ones from ancient clans. One of them cast a spell and directly destroyed the sword. "Let's go together. Kill him quickly," one of them said. The 8 of them nodded and used all of their methods to meet Lin Tian. Lin Tian retreated swiftly. He showed no fear when facing the 8 Imperial Flight Cultivators. He used divining divine spells to prop up the barren heaven realm. As soon as the barren heaven world appeared, the roars of demonic beasts could be heard. The barren heaven realm with the barren demon body? What Lord Baiyu said is true. He actually really knows such a method. Be careful of this thing. This is the king's region of the king physique. Its power is unfathomable. Let's gather our strength together. We must not be careless. The expressions of the 8 people changed. Lin Tian's expression was cold. He activated the barren heaven world and suppressed the 8 people together. "Rise!" someone among the 8 shouted. It had to be said that these 8 people were indeed powerful. The barren heaven realm was ineffective against them, and they were bounced back. Then, the 8 of them drew out their precious weapons, swords, sabers, hammers, and halberds, and attacked Lin Tian mercilessly. Lin Tian waved his hands and formed a seal in front of his chest. Behind him, a broken mountain, a large bell, and an old forest flew out. There was also a 3-colored grass ocean surrounded by black and white light that pressed down on the 8 people. Boom! The power of this attack could be said to be majestic. Several types of divine elephants of heaven gathered together and directly forced all 8 of them to retreat. One of them spat out blood and almost let go of the precious weapon in his hand. Lin Tian stared at this person. He activated the yin and yang Tao and approached like a ghost. His speed was shocking. The Bai family cultivator's expression changed. He quickly retreated and threw the precious weapon in his hand at Lin Tian. Lin Tian moved like an afterimage. He punched the precious weapon away and approached in the blink of an eye. "You die." Boom! With a sound, the bell, the barren heaven world, the broken mountain, the vast forest, and all the divine elephants fell together. Unsurprisingly, when this Bai family expert exploded back then, there was no way he could have survived so many divine elephants. Damn it! Someone was furious. He used the Bai family's divine void puppet and rushed towards Lin Tian. "You can't compete in speed," Lin Tianling said. The yin and yang Tao flashed. He appeared in front of this person in the blink of an eye and threw a punch. The Bai family cultivator threw a punch at Lin Tian. The 2 fists collided. The man screamed as his iron fist was completely shattered. Lin Tianling snorted. He grabbed the man's neck and punched through his chest with a Nirvana fist. Another person killed. There were still 6 people left. At this moment, they could not help but feel a chill down their spines. How is this possible? One of them paled. Using his divine sense, he found that Lin Tian was only in the 8th level of the Sea of Consciousness for levels lower than them. However, his battle prowess was so strong that he was able to kill 3 of them in such a short time. Does he also have the qualifications to be the sovereign of his generation? Another person muttered to himself. At this moment, a powerful wave spread. Lin Tian stepped forward and closed in on the 6 people. His attitude immediately made the 6 people's faces turn cold. "You dare to act like this in front of the Bai family. You are the first in thousands of years," the leader said. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. He swung his sword and said, "Bai family? Your Bai family is only a top force in the second heaven. Do you really think you are invincible?" His eyes were extremely cold as he walked towards the 6 people. "I was just a little closer to your miss, and your Bai family wants to kill me. You are really overbearing. It's not up to you to tell my Bai family what to do. How can anyone get close to the Miss's precious body? Where is the dignity of the Bai family? You can only blame your ignorance," the 6 people said coldly. Lin Tian shook his head. "I talk too much nonsense. Why waste my breath on you?" He stared at the 6 people indifferently and walked towards them step by step. "Just kill them." Clang! The sound of swords rang out. He approached in an instant, and the divine elephants pressed down together. Suddenly, the 7 people fought together, using their martial arts and abhijna and dharma treasures. Above Lin Tian's head, the divine roar hall appeared after the barren heaven world. Boom, 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 the sky suddenly turned dark. Bolts of lightning fell, striking in all directions. Divine roar hall? Damn it! The 6 people were furious. Lin Tian moved his hands, and his black hair danced. The Jiuquan sword rushed out from his head. Once the Jiuquan sword appeared, a wave stronger than the barren heaven worlds and the divine roar halls spread out. The 6 people's expressions changed. Lin Tian moved his mind, and several divine elephants pressed down together. Poof! The divine elephants were powerful. The leader exploded, and his body and soul were destroyed. His eyes were cold as he glanced at the last 5 people. He urged several divine elephants to press down again. Compared to when he was at the fallen celestial peak, his cultivation had not changed at all. However, after meditating for 7 days at the place where Lord Daurin comprehended the way for 1,000 years, his understanding and comprehension of the divine art had reached a small level. When he used the divine art, he could now fight across 5 levels. At most, he could kill strong people in the 4th heaven of the Zephyr realm. The 5 people of the Bai clan roared and used their Abijna to meet Lin Tian. Found him. Over there. There was a loud shout in the distance. In the blink of an eye, a dense crowd of cultivators rushed over. There were more than 100 people. Most of them were cultivators in the Sea of Consciousness realm. There were also some young talents in the Airborne realm from the 10 major sections. This chapter is not finished. Please turn the page. The highest level is the 3rd heaven of the Zephyr realm. In the blink of an eye, the crowd surrounded Lin Tian. The 5 people from the Bai clan stopped. Their eyes narrowed as they scanned their surroundings. Lin Tian stood where he was and looked around. In the void, a young man in purple looked at the 5 middle-aged men. His expression changed slightly. "Are you the seniors of the Bai clan?" The 5 middle-aged men of the Bai clan frowned and stared at the young man in purple. The purple-clothed young man knew that he had guessed correctly. He quickly descended from the sky and bowed. He said, "Greetings to the 5 seniors. This brat once killed the junior brothers of the 9 great sections. I was ordered to suppress him and offer him as a blood sacrifice to my junior brothers. Can we kill him together? After we suppress him and offer him as a blood sacrifice to my junior brothers, we will definitely hand him over to the 5 seniors." The young man in purple was very handsome. He was a candidate to be the next leader of the Qinghua Taoism. "Seniors, please allow us to do so." Someone else spoke. It was a young man in black. He was a candidate to be the next leader of the Beihing sect. At the same time, there were 6 other young men in the void. They were all about 25 years old. All of them were very strong. They were the most outstanding powerhouses of the other 6 major sections. They were all candidates to be the next leaders of their respective sections. The 8 of them gathered together and bowed to the 5 people of the Bai clan. The eyes of the 5 people of the Bai clan flickered. After a while, one of them nodded and said, "Yes." The 5 of them were here to kill Lin Tian. Now that they had so many people to help them, they would not refuse. When these people worked together to suppress Lin Tian, the 5 of them would directly kill him. They would not let these people take Lin Tian away. "Thank you, seniors." The 8 of them bowed again. Then, the group of people turned their heads and stared at Lin Tian together. They closed in on him. Lin Tian looked indifferent as he looked at these people. "You are discussing how to deal with me in front of me. You are discussing my ending. Do you think I am a piece of meat?" He stared at the group of people. The handsome young man of the Qinghua Taoism smiled faintly. "We are surrounded by the 5 seniors of the Bai clan. Do you think you can escape? Obediently accept your punishment and suffer less physical pain." The young man in black from the Beihing sect said coldly. The group of people slowly closed in on Lin Tian. Lin Tian stood where he was. He was surrounded by more than 100 people, but his expression did not change at all. He said, "If you all die here, your sects and families will be heartbroken. After all, you are not weak." Hearing those words, many people burst into laughter. "How dare you talk nonsense when you are about to die? Don't talk nonsense with him. Suppress him." The young man in purple and the others gave the order and attacked. Immediately, all the people of the large sects rushed forward. At the same time, the 5 people of the Bai clan followed and attacked Lin Tian with powerful sword techniques. Lin Tian's eyes were cold. In the barren heaven world, the divine roar palace, the Jiuquan sword, and the other divine elephants were put away. Then, in the next moment, his glabella shone brightly. A sea of yin-yang lotuses floated out and hovered around him, surrounding him. Thousands of lotuses swayed. They were black and white, mysterious and magical. "Kill!" He coldly spat out a single word. In an instant, a cold wind blew. The sea of yin-yang lotuses shook. Lotus petals slashed in all directions like a rain of swords. "What is this?" "Be careful. Use your precious weapons to cut it open." What is going on? Precious weapons are useless. Not, not even martial arts techniques? Ah! The yin-yang twin lotus swept past, and nothing could stop it. Those who were brushed by the lotus petals all fell to the ground with a miserable howl, their bodies twitching. Moreover, these people's bodies turned black and white, and then they directly exploded with ear-piercing screams. End of chapter. Chapter 342. Everything was divided into yin and yang. When yin and yang merged and harmonized perfectly, they could become great weapons with endless benefits. However, if yin and yang were out of balance, the harm would be endless. Lin Tian meditated in celestial Lord Doran's place of enlightenment for 7 days. The yin and yang aura of the yin-yang clover under the stone platform entered his sea of consciousness and merged with the white lotus in his sea of consciousness, forming the yin-yang twin lotus. Now he could control the yin and yang aura of the yin-yang twin lotus and inject it into the enemy's body to make them lose balance. It was a terrifying, killing weapon. Walala! Beside Lin Tian, the sea of lotuses swayed, and the black and white colors shone brightly. As he moved his mind, the sea of lotuses shook, and more lotus petals floated out, completely covering the space within a radius of dozens of feet. Ah! The cultivators of the sea of consciousness of several large sects exploded one after another, and their blood stained the ground. The young man of the Tsinghua Taoism was shocked. "Be careful," the man shouted. A supreme sword appeared in his hand. The man used the divine power of the Tsinghua Taoism and slashed forward. Unfortunately, the sea of yin and yang lotuses was not obstructed at all. They directly pressed forward, and lotus petals rushed into his sea of consciousness. Suddenly, the young man of the Tsinghua Taoism screamed and fell from the sky with a bang. "Open!" the young man of the Tsinghua Taoism shouted. It had to be said that this person was indeed very powerful. He did not explode like the other cultivators of the sea of consciousness after the lotus petals entered his body and endured it. However, at this moment, Lin Tian flashed over. "You," the young man of the Tsinghua Taoism was shocked. Lin Tian's eyes were indifferent. "Can you kill me?" As soon as he finished speaking, he punched down. The young man of the Tsinghua Taoism raised the supreme sword in his hand and pressed it down. With a crack, it was smashed into pieces. Then, Lin Tian's fist landed directly on his chest, directly shattering him into pieces. "Fellow Taoist from the Purple Light sect. Damn it, what the hell is this?" The cultivators of the other large sects were all shocked. Lin Tian's face emotionless, and he looked around. Buzz! The yin-yang lotus sea moved according to his will, forming dozens of short swords that slashed in all directions. The short sword was extremely terrifying. It was much more powerful than ordinary lotus petals. In the blink of an eye, it pierced into the body of the descendant of the great northern sect. "Ah!" The man screamed in agony as he struggled madly. His body was instantly entangled by the black and white streams of energy. In the next moment, this person exploded on the spot with a poof. Seeing two people being killed in a row, the other Zephyr flight powerhouses of the other great sects were all frightened, and their faces were filled with fear. How could a cultivator at the 8th heaven of the Sea of Consciousness be so powerful? He was actually able to kill an enemy who was 4 minor realms above him. Buzz! All of a sudden, divine light appeared in the distant sky, and a terrifying aura swept out in all directions. The 5 members of the Bai clan worked together and activated a divine ring. The divine ring enveloped the surroundings and pressed down on Lin Tian. Under the void god ring, everything will be suppressed, the 5 of them shouted. Lin Tian raised his head, his eyes indifferent. Is that so? His eyes were cold as he raised his right hand. The first layer of the 4 symbols seal condensed and moved forward. With a whoosh, the void god rings of the 5 members of the Bai clan disappeared without a trace. How is this possible? This is one of the core secret arts of the Bai clan. How could it be broken so easily? Damn it, What the hell is that? The five of them were shocked. Lin Tian moved his feet and arrived with the yin-yang lotus sea, pressing down on the five of them. I have nothing to say to you, he said coldly. With a thought, the four symbols Tao diagram flew out, and the yin-yang lotus sea pressed down. With a poof, another member of the Bai clan exploded. It was difficult for him to resist. At the same time, screams continued in all directions. Black and white lotus petals floated in the air like snowflakes. Although they were of different colors, they covered every corner. In the face of such yin-yang lotus petals, how could ordinary cultivators of the sea of consciousness resist? They could not even block a single lotus petal. Those who were grazed by it would directly shatter into pieces and die tragically. Lin Tian moved with the yin-yang lotus, dodging the killing light in the sky, and approached another member of the Bai clan again. Yu Clang. The yin-yang lotus sea condensed a long sword that was about an inch long and pierced through the person's glabella. Ah! The person screamed, and a black and white yin-yang chi appeared around his body. He rolled on the ground and struggled frantically. A long sword appeared in Lin Tian's hand, and he directly cut off the person's head. His eyes were indifferent as he glanced at the last three people of the Bai family and the outstanding experts of the other great sections. Speaking of which, the Bai family sent experts to kill me because I was too close to their princess. You great sects want to steal the weapon control technique. Good. I'll let you see it before you die. As soon as he finished speaking, a sonorous sound was heard. 10 precious swords and more than 10 precious swords appeared around him at the same time. It's that kind of weapon controlling technique. It's from a higher heaven region. Seeing this scene, many people were moved. However, their expressions soon changed because dozens of treasured swords trembled and slashed wildly in all directions. Ah! Miserable screams sounded, and it was particularly ear-piercing. For the ordinary disciples of the great sects, this was undoubtedly a feast of death. First, it was the yin-yang lotus sea, and then it was the weapon control grand technique. Apart from a few flying experts who had the strength to resist, the others were simply no match for it. Puff! 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 Blood splattered and flowed to the ground. In just a few dozen breaths, more than 100 cultivators of the 10 sects were killed. It's too cruel. You actually killed all of them, the expert of the Shinga Taoism said. Cruel? Lin Tian tilted his head. Are you qualified to say that? With a clang, dozens of swords rushed out together with the yin-yang lotus swords and arrived in front of the person in an instant. You puff! Blood exploded, and the person of the Shinga Taoism died tragically. Such a bloody scene immediately made the other 5 people and the last 3 members of the Bai clan tremble in fear. At this moment, staring at Lin Tian, they only felt that he was simply a demon. What's wrong? One side wants to kill me, and the other side wants to seize the treasured technique. Why did both of you stop? Lin Tianling said. The 3 members of the Bai clan and the successors of the other great sects all had ashen faces, and they looked a little ugly. Since you guys aren't moving, I'll do it. Lin Tiandao. The brilliance between his brows shone brightly, and the yin-yang lotus sea merged, directly pressing towards the last 5 airborne realm experts of the great sections. With a boom, black and white light surged, like a black and white sea rolling with terrifying power. At the same time, there were dozens of large swords in the lotus sea, and they rang loudly. Puff! 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 There was no doubt that the power of the yin-yang lotus sea was boundless, and it was almost comparable to the complete king's territory divine ability. How could these ordinary cultivators of the great sects resist it? In the blink of an eye, 3 more people were killed, and blood stained the sky. In the blink of an eye, only the disciples of the 2 great sects and the 2 middle-aged men of the Bai clan were left. The young powerhouse of the Xinyang sect took a step back and directly fled into the distance. Then, the successor of the Kangluo immortal sect didn't stay any longer and quickly flew into the sky and fled into the distance. Lin Tian was really too strong, and the means of control made their hearts palpitate. There was no way they could resist at all. Now they were just thinking about how to survive. Lin Tianling smiled, and the yin-yang twin lotus condensed two cold swords and instantly attacked. Ah! Two screams sounded as the two young men fell from the sky at the same time, letting out shrill screams. The yin-yang twin lotus entered their consciousness, causing them to suffer unimaginable injuries, and they couldn't help but roll on the ground. Lin Tian waved his hand emotionlessly, and the two long swords arrived and cut off the heads of the two men. You guys are the only ones left. Lin Tian turned his head and looked at the last three people of the Bai clan, stepping forward step by step. Facing Lin Tian's cold eyes, the three people of the Bai clan trembled slightly and couldn't help but retreat. The ancient Bai clan looked down on the second heavenly domain. As members of the Bai clan, and as powerhouses of the third heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm, why are you afraid when facing a small cultivator of the spiritual sea realm like me? Lin Tiandao. Such words immediately made the faces of the three people of the Bai clan turn pale. Lin Tian, don't be so smug. We're just a side branch of the clan, and we've only cultivated some of the spells in the scripture of the gods. When the true powerhouse of our clan appears, you'll only be killed. One of them said coldly. Is that so? I'll wait. Lin Tian was expressionless. He had nothing to say to these three people. They came to kill him, and he could only raise his sword to meet them. Boom! The yin-yang lotus sea rushed out, and the barren heaven world, divine cry palace, and nine-fist sword appeared together, pressing forward. After about half an hour, the place became quiet. The last three people of the Bai clan were killed. Lin Tian glanced at the surroundings, put away some useful artifacts and supreme treasures, and then left the place. Not long after, someone found the Daluo mountain forest and came to find Lin Tian, but all they saw was a ground full of corpses. These seemed to be the powerhouses of the top 10 sects, and even the candidates for the next hierarch of each sect. The middle-aged man over there seems to be someone from the Bai clan. Many people were shocked. In this place, the ground was soaked in blood, and the corpses were all over the place. It was a shocking sight. A female cultivator saw this scene, and her face turned pale. She couldn't help but hold on to an old tree and retch. Soon, the news spread as if it had grown wings, shocking many major forces. The major sects were shocked and angry. Many of their outstanding disciples had been killed, and each of them had lost a candidate for the next hierarch. These were the future pillars of their sects, but now they were killed just like that. There's no need to send more disciples. Let those above the fifth heavenly layer of the Zephyr realm do it. An elder of a major sect said coldly. At the same time, Baiyu was furious. He personally sent more powerhouses of his clan to kill Lin Tian. After leaving the previous battlefield, Lin Tian stepped on the yin and yang rock and moved at an extremely fast speed. I must quickly enter the 9th level of the Sea of Consciousness and rely on the Zephyr Pill to reach the Zephyr Realm. Otherwise, I can advance to the 6th level of Array Manipulator and learn the method of engraving killing arrays in the void and on the ground. Lin Tian said to himself. He was too dangerous now. It seemed that he killed them easily before, but in fact, every time he attacked, he used all his strength. Otherwise, it would be impossible to kill more than a dozen powerhouses at the 3rd heavenly layer of the Zephyr Realm so easily. Moreover, these people were just small fries. If he encountered a real powerhouse, such as Bai Ziki and Pitsong, or people at the peak of the Zephyr Realm like Bai Yu and Muyang Feng, he couldn't stop them at all. No, even if he was facing a cultivator at the 5th heavenly layer of the Zephyr Realm, he wouldn't be able to resist. Only by entering the Zephyr Realm can I barely have the capital to travel the world alone. He thought to himself. Hundreds of thoughts flashed through his mind, but his speed was not slow. In the blink of an eye, he had crossed hundreds of feet. At this moment, a middle-aged man in a green robe appeared in front of him. His whole body was surrounded by an astonishing pill chi. Even his pupils had pill-shaped flames, giving people a creepy feeling. Young friend Lin Tian, can you come with me for a talk? Chapter 343. Staring at the middle-aged man, Lin Tian became vigilant. This person was very scary. He was estimated to be at the 7th layer of the Zephyr realm. Please search Taste Book Yinnet to see the most complete novels. Someone from the Shin family? He said in a deep voice, blocking in front of him and possessing the aura of elixir. The biggest possibility he could think of was the alchemist Shin family. Sure enough, the middle-aged man nodded, confirming his guess. Shin Hanyuan originally prepared many means and sent many family experts to search for Lin Tian and capture Lin Tian. However, after hearing that Lin Tian killed more than a dozen third-layer experts of the Zephyr realm, he immediately recalled ordinary family experts and reported to the elders of the family. So, the middle-aged man in green appeared here. I wonder if you can visit my Shin family? The middle-aged man in green said. Lin Tian's heart moved slightly. Visit? Just a visit? How could it be so simple? If he went to visit an alchemist family, he would die without knowing how. He knew very well why the middle-aged man in green in front of him came. Sorry, I can't do it now. In a few days, I will definitely visit, he said. After that, he avoided the middle-aged man in green and walked to the left. With a swish, the middle-aged man in green flashed and blocked in front of him. Senior, what do you mean? Lin Tian frowned. The middle-aged man in green said without changing his expression, I heard that you have some small conflicts with the young people of my Shin family. As an elder of the Shin family, I want to mediate. At the same time, I also want to ask you about the method of alchemy. When the words method of alchemy were mentioned, the eyes of the middle-aged man in green clearly flashed with a touch of light. Lin Tiandao said, I only know a little. How can I be qualified to ask the senior of the alchemist family? Senior, you think too highly of me. Otherwise, my Shin family and the other 2 alchemist families don't have the method of flame seal. The azure-clothed middle-aged man stared at Lin Tian and said, according to legend, the flame transformation seal was created by one of the 9 great celestial venerables, the Master Apothecary, and it has long since been lost in the river of time. I really want to know, how did little friend Lin come to possess this lost Tao of alchemy treasure technique? I don't understand what Senior is talking about. I don't know that kind of thing. Lin Tiandao. After he finished speaking, he turned around and walked to the other side. However, the middle-aged man in green blocked his path again. You won't? Let me give it a try. The green-robed middle-aged man raised his hand and conjured an alchemic flame. It burned so intensely that the space around it began to distort. Offensive alchemic flames can be divided into 7 levels. From low to high, their colors are yellow, purple, cyan, green, blue, red, and black. My Dan fire is at the 3rd level, and it is difficult for ordinary martial skills to extinguish it. The most effective method is the flame transformation seal, and this seal is said to be able to swallow all flames in the world. After saying that, the middle-aged man in the green robe showed no mercy. He urged the green alchemic fire to envelop Lin Tian. Lin Tian's expression changed. Feeling the scorching heat, she quickly retreated. Behind him, the barren heaven world, the divine roar palace, and the Jiuquan sword all rushed forward. However, it was useless. This was because the middle-aged man's cultivation was very strong. He was at least 8 levels higher than Yi Futian. With a boom, the green alchemic fire closed in on Yi Futian in the blink of an eye. With his hands behind his back, the middle-aged man said, with your current cultivation, you can only use the flame transformation seal to extinguish this move and help you resolve the crisis. Otherwise, this alchemic fire will burn you to ashes. Lin Tian cursed in his heart. Unable to dodge, he shook his right hand and directly condensed a mysterious rune. The rune flickered and absorbed the green alchemic fire that was burning in front of him. Then he directly threw the rune in front of him. With a boom, the green alchemic fire rushed out and turned into a sea of fire, enveloping the middle-aged man in green. After that, Yi Fuqian turned around and left quickly on the yin and yang liang. The middle-aged man smashed the alchemic fire in the sky with his palm. His eyes shone with divine light. It really is the flame transformation seal. Staring at Lin Tian, who was running away, the middle-aged man didn't hesitate and chased after him. When he heard Shin Hongyuan say that Lin Tian knew the lost art of alchemy, he didn't really believe it. That was why he came out to test it himself. Now that he saw that Lin Tian really knew the legendary flame transformation seal, how could he let Lin Tian leave? Since he knew the flame transformation seal, then it was very likely that he knew other lost alchemy arts. To the Shen family, Lin Tian was a divine treasure. The middle-aged man took a step forward and covered a distance of more than 10 feet. Lin Tian looked back and couldn't help but feel a chill. This middle-aged man was shockingly fast. His eyes turned cold, his footsteps flashed, and his speed suddenly increased. The yin in Yang Liang was divided into 9 levels. He had been cultivating and had broken through the 2nd level not long ago, reaching the 3rd level. Now, with the yin and Yang Liang on the 3rd level, his speed was comparable to that of an expert of the 7th level of the levitating realm. He wasn't much slower. In the blink of an eye, he pulled away from the middle-aged man in green. Lin Tian. Yes, it's that Lin Tian. Stop him. A group of rogue cultivators appeared in front of him. There were more than 50 of them, and their cultivation ranged from the 5th level to the 9th level. With a boom, the group of people used their martial arts and slashed at Lin Tian. Not long ago, Lin Tian killed more than 10 experts of the airborne realm, which shocked many major forces and shocked many people. However, this didn't make too many people retreat because Lin Tian had mastered the weapon control technique. This temptation was too great. For this precious technique, even a few ordinary sea of consciousness cultivators would fearlessly come to fight for it. After all, although Lin Tian was powerful, he was only one person in the end. If a group of people worked together to kill him, there would always be hope for victory. Kill! Someone shouted and pressed forward. Get lost! A cold light flashed in Lin Tian's eyes. He spread out the barren heaven realm and pressed forward. Puff! 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 Screams rang out, and it was especially mournful. These ordinary cultivators couldn't resist the barren heaven realm that Lin Tian summoned with the divination divine technique. More than half of them died on the spot. Among the dozens of rogue cultivators, those who were lucky enough to survive stared at Lin Tian, and their eyes suddenly showed extreme fear. How is this possible? One hit and he... Staring at Lin Tian, these people couldn't help but retreat, and a bone-piercing chill ran down their spines. More than 50 people joined forces, and many of them were cultivators of the 9th heaven of the spiritual sea realm, but they couldn't even block one hit from Lin Tian. More than 30 people died directly. This difference shocked the dozen or so people who survived, and they were almost scared out of their wits. Lin Tian long glanced coldly at the dozen or so people. He didn't stay and directly fled into the distance. There were cultivators chasing behind him, and he didn't have time to pay attention to these small fries. Suddenly, a sharp killing intent attacked, and Lin Tian felt a chill down his spine. Without much time to think, he stepped on the yin and yang rock and quickly moved 30 feet away. Crack! A blade light flew over, cutting an old tree into pieces not far away. 30 feet away, Lin Tian had just landed when a chill ran down his spine again, as if a ghost was attacking him from behind. Without much time to think, he directly activated the barren heaven realm and pressed it behind him. Good spiritual sense. Not far away, a middle-aged man in a long robe appeared, staring coldly at Lin Tian. Shinga Taoism. Lin Tian Lung's face darkened. He recognized this man. He was one of the 10 people who went to Wuji Gate to make trouble for him, an elder of the Shinga Taoism. The Shinga Taoism elder's eyes were cold. Without a word, he slapped at Lin Tian. Lin Tian retreated, pressed down with the barren heaven realm, and fled into the distance again. This Shinga Taoism elder was very powerful. He was far from being a match for him. If he faced him head-on, he would die. You can't escape. The Shinga Taoism elder slapped the barren heaven realm open and chased after him. Lin Tian didn't resist at all. He just stepped on the yin and yang robe and fled. Not long after, the elders of the other sects appeared one after another. There were also several strong cultivators of the Bai family in front of him, completely blocking his escape route. Be obedient and suffer less physical pain. Suppress him first, then we'll discuss how to deal with him. I wonder if the Bai family friends have any opinions? Sure. The group of people pressed toward the center, staring at the group of strong cultivators. Lin Tian felt a chill down his spine, but his eyes were cold. Do you really think I'm a bird in a cage? He said coldly. With a buzz, he activated the divination divine skill. The barren heaven realm, divine cry palace, and 9 springs sword appeared one by one. It's not your skill. It won't work. It's just a form. Suppress him, the dozen people said. Violent spiritual ether waves pressed on Lin Tian. Suddenly, Lin Tian's chest tightened, and he spat out a mouthful of blood. These people were all stronger than him. Surrender. The elder of the green flame celestial sect approached and pressed his palm on Lin Tian. With blood at the corner of his mouth, Lin Tian quickly retreated. At the same time, his glabella shone brightly, and the yin-yang lotus sea rushed out. The black and white lotus flowers spread in all directions, covering every corner. Break! The elder of the green flame celestial sect didn't dodge. He faced the black and white lotus petals in front of him and slammed his palm down. However, in the next moment, the lotus petals passed through his palm at an extremely fast speed and disappeared into his sea of consciousness. Suddenly, the elder of the green flame celestial sect shook violently and let out a painful groan. Almost at the same time, the strong cultivators of the other large sects were the same. Under the situation where they didn't know about the yin-yang lotus sea, they were all at a disadvantage. Their sea of consciousness shook violently, and they felt intense pain. Even the strong cultivators of the Bai family were no exception. Whoosh! The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. Lin Tian stepped on the yin-yang lotus and flashed through a gap, disappearing into the distance in the blink of an eye. Damn it, I was careless. Those lotus petals are not simple. They ignore everything and can directly attack the sea of consciousness. Could it be a strange phenomenon in the sea of consciousness? More than 10 people's expressions were very unpleasant. There were still dense black and white lotus petals floating around, blocking the path ahead. At this time, Lin Tian's figure had already disappeared without a trace. It was difficult for them to catch up with him. After escaping from the clutches of over 10 experts, Lin Tian flew all the way, and not long after, he appeared in another deep mountain forest. At this moment, he paused his steps and felt a sense of vigilance in his heart. 3 middle-aged men walked out in front of him. They were all acquaintances. They were the 3 peak masters of the Wuji Gate, the Wuji Peak Master, the Muyang Feng Peak Master, and the Luoying Peak Master. Lin Tian, don't be nervous. We have no bad intentions. We are here to help you under the order of the Gate Master. You can secretly follow us back to the Wuji Gate. You can secretly cultivate in the gate. The outside world will never know your whereabouts. The Wuji Peak Master said. Tags, the mobile version is online. It's more convenient to read. Please read it on mobile at You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.